go over, click on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side.
We're on.
Hi, good morning. We're beginning today's town board work session for October 11th, 2018. If we could start by rising for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're gonna start today's work session with the Water District Capital Projects Preliminary Review. If we could have Mark Conklin, John Collins, and Bill Rozar will be coming up.
Mark's favorite thing. One of many.
Thank you. It doesn't matter.
Thank you, Mark.
We're just waiting for Bill, he's coming.
$23, wow.
Oh, no, you can find it like that. You have to go to HTTP.
Just wait for Bill to come. How many glasses, Jack? You want another set for the top of your head there?
No, no.
Good morning.
Hey, Bill.
So just as an introduction, when I came into office, I had met with, Mark and we had discussed some of the capital projects that were needed over in the water district, and then as we started to talk, it became, more and more evident that there really needed to be a plan, that went out, a certain number of years to attend to the, capital improvements and infrastructure improvements, and really the way the district was run as far as staffing and what was needed for the water district for us to continue to be in the water district here, really. We've been meeting, you have worked tirelessly on this. I think that you've done a wonderful job, and I will turn it over to you to present everything.
Thank you. Mr. Collins is doing the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, to discuss the water district. Specifically, as the supervisor said, we're here to discuss future projects, of the water district, and what Mark had given out previously, was a list of 18 projects, spread out over the next 10 years that we identified as being, priorities. That being said, priorities change over time, so these are our priorities as of today, 2018. So before we started, I just wanted to update you on the projects 1, 2, and 3, which have already been approved, by the town board. Project 1 was, water main installation on Pulaski Mill in Osborne, and, that project has been completed under budget. The second project was the ground storage tank and booster station. The ground storage tank, a 2 million gallon concrete tank, has been constructed. It's up and not running, but it's up, constructed, and we are now in the process of building the pump station that'll move water out of that. We expect that pump station to be completed in the spring of 19. I think the surveyor was just out there yesterday to stake the location. And then the third project is the emergency generators at Plant 1, which is Pulaski Street, and Plant 16, which is Edwards Avenue. The Edwards Avenue generator has been installed, it's up and running, and the Plant 1 Pulaski Street generator has been installed, and we're now just doing final programming. We expect that to be up and running by Thanksgiving. Alright, so.
I wanted to just inform you, so the bond resolutions were passed for this, but we have not secured the bonds for these projects yet, so we have not gone out to bonding on these yet.
Bill, do you know what the, cost of the bond is, and what's the term of the bonds, how many years?
No, I actually have a call with, CMA later today to give us the current rates. We're on target to go out and sell those bonds by the end of November.
Okay,
They've creeped up a little bit in price, but they're still fairly,
It's hard to tell with the
Decent
market
rates.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, yesterday
so,
was a
so
big
we're
change.
hoping that I think it went down the last one, it went down just slightly from previously the rates, and so hopefully it'll go down just a little bit more.
So in the week that we go out to bid, which will probably be the third week in November or so, It really matters where we are that week. People gotta bid on how much money they have available to lend and stuff like that, so, really just a matter of hitting it right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, to continue, today, we're here today to not only present these 3 projects that are under construction, but the 15 additional projects that we foresee needing over the next, 10 years. But we're here to specifically talk about projects 4, 5, and 6. These projects will help the, district, become more resilient, more reliable. They will help us identify new sources of water, although they won't provide us with new sources of water. And they will improve and update some existing infrastructure. With projects 1, 2, and 3 being completed, or already scheduled to be completed in the spring of 2019, we're asking for the board's endorsement on, proceeding to the next stage of the projects, which would be the map and plan, where we detail, work that needs to be done, fine tune the, cost estimates, shown here. The cost estimates shown are very preliminary. We'd like to, really fine tune, drill down on them, and then identify how we're gonna pay for these, improvements. As many of you know, as Bill just said, all the bonds secured by the town are now being paid down or retired. So working with Bill, we have reviewed the indebtedness of the district and, determined that the town has the ability to pay for them, pay for the projects, through taxes, key money, and fund balance. And as I understand, it's minimal impact on the existing tax structure. So with that, you know, we're asking for your endorsement on preparing the maps and plans for the next 3 projects, as well as, you know, providing the information going forward, for the future projects, and,
John, I think one thing needs to be said also is I think that the reason for putting all of these projects in that need to be done is that I think the board needs to be aware that if we do just a couple of these projects, say we do 4, 5, and 6, and then after 4, 5, and 6, there's no commitment to go through with the other projects, it doesn't work. So this is really, all of these capital improvements, is really what we're seeking support for from the board, is that there will be a plan to continue this moving forward for all of these capital improvements, because without these can you address if you stop short or you don't continue with these capital improvements, how does that affect the water district's ability to function?
I think that's the reason why we're in the situation that we're in now, because we've never done these projects and continued on, painting tanks, things like that. That's been kicked around for 10 years, 15 years. So what we're saying is exactly like you just said, that we wanna continue on, whether we change the order a little bit because of certain situations, but at the bottom line is the $23 million and the commitment to keep going on a schedule over the next couple of years to keep doing the work that we need to keep the infrastructure going and to provide the water quality and services to the people of Riverhead.
Can you
This is
just
the
elaborate, I'm sorry,
Go
can
ahead.
you just elaborate on number 4 for me?
Number 4, test well program. Well, first off, we have an existing agreement with USGS. And under that agreement, we're helping them, they're helping us. It's, kind of symbiotic, but they're trying to locate the saltwater interface below the town of Riverhead and on the east end.
Okay, I didn't know if it was testing wells.
No, it's actually,
We
it's,
still have a lot of wells in Riverhead.
yeah, it's drilling new wells to identify locations, not only of, the saltwater interface,
Okay,
but of possible wells for the water district. Most likely gonna be the Sound Avenue, Osborne Avenue, Reeves Avenue portion of the town. We're pretty solid in Wading River. The further you go out east, the worse the water quality becomes in relation to chlorides. So we're running into some problems with existing wells on chlorides, so we have to maintain those wells, pump them and even take them offline for periods during the winter, so our interface is not affected.
And sorry, go ahead, you wanna ask a question?
Yeah, in addressing this whole thing, this is really, so the residents know, this is really a plan to keep the water district, our water district. It's been kicked down the road for year after year, going back many years, and things were put off, and now all of a sudden, we're catching up, or it's catching up to us, I should say, where major work has to be done. And in order to continue with our own water district and not have to even consider going to Suffolk County Water District, which I think would be a very bad idea, this is what it's gonna cost. And these are the things that you have put together, and I understand as a board member that this is what it's gonna be, and I just want the residents to understand that there are certain things that we need to look into also. Rain gauges for commercial properties. So everybody drives down Route 58 on a rainy day, and the Home Depot complex is watering away out there, and, you know, if we can require rain gauges for commercial properties, that will help on the water use. Also, which is a good thing, is that you're, requiring them to put their own wells in for irrigation, or we are as a town, which takes some of the lift off the water district itself, because we all know the June, July, August months are tough. And Mark knows it better than any of us that, you know, sometimes there's not a lot of water left to fight a fire with, and that's an important factor. So if we can do some of these other things, certainly to help conserve the water, it will help this work more efficiently. But this is what we have to be prepared as residents of the town to maintain a water district in our town, which I'm totally in favor of. But we just, you know, unfortunately, it hasn't been taken care of 10, 15 years ago the way it should have. So
Actually,
we're faced with this now, and to make this work, this is what it's gonna have to be.
Once again, I have to say thank you to Mark. I mean, he has been working on this for months, to come up with, and John also, to come up with the priorities, the list of priorities, the tentative amount it will be, how we were going to be able to finance this and be able to move it forward. So, it's a lot, it's been a lot of work, but I think that this is a very comprehensive plan. It's a good plan. I think it's a plan that I hope everybody will support.
Well, I think you're looking at, you know, you're looking at $23 million over 10 years, but we've already committed to over $5 million already, so actually we're down to 18 million over 10 years, 1.8 million a year, I mean, really.
Well, we haven't bonded this yet.
I know,
So
but I'm just
we
saying
really
it's-
are looking at 23 million, because we have to bond that out yet.
True,
So
true,
it's-
but the first 3 have already been done, so that's already been committed to at that point, right?
So, how much have we spent over the last 10 years in improvements to the water district?
With the 5 million over the last couple of years, 10 years goes back to 2007. We did the perchlorate filter at, 16, that was $500,000,
No, it was a mill, about 750.
750. Plant 17 was what year?
17 was in there, 2 million,
2 million and 17, and then plant 16, new well was
same.
another 2 million.
So, I mean, as the need has arisen for more water sources, we've dug the wells, we've, you know, provided the service, and, you know, it is important, you have to maintain it. And I think if you put an appraisal value on what the worth of the water district is, this is chump change compared to the, actual infrastructure itself and the appraised value of it. And it's a cost of doing business.
Yeah, I agree, to say that nothing has been done would be incorrect, there has been things done.
Oh my gosh,
Plenty of things done, and, the town board, whether it be this one or past ones, have always realized that what needs to be done. But now it's just coming to the thing where things are getting older, and as things get older, they start breaking down, so, you know.
Yeah, but it's good also because they've come up with innovative ways to correct some of these things. Had we done it years ago, it would have cost us a lot more than what it would cost today. I mean, the price of concrete is very inexpensive right now, and looking at alternatives to, you know, emptying the tanks and then cleaning them and then repainting them versus putting in a concrete tank that'll last for 100 years. You know, these are innovations that have come in the last few years, so actually holding off has benefited the water district because the costs would have been much greater.
I don't know, Mark. I don't know, Mark. Mark's been sweating it out, working 90 hours a week, trying to
What do you have to say
keep
about
it,
that,
keep
Mark?
it,
I agree with that.
but I think that,
We had talked about, it's when
Do
you
you
said.
agree with that,
this
Mark?
is the commitment that
That's
needs
what
to
he
be,
said.
this is the commitment that, you know, whatever's taken place in the past has taken place in the past, and the improvements that have happened in the past have helped the water district, but we're at a point in time now that unless we commit to the water district in this manner, it's going to be difficult for the water district to continue to stay in business, is the bottom line. And that's really why we're here, is to be able to commit to the water district, to put the money into the water district that it needs to run efficiently.
Well, I can tell you from being the senior person here, I don't think we've ever denied the water district anything that they needed, so I certainly would support this. Bill, I have a comfort level with you with the bonding issue and with
We'll go over that next.
the taxing issue,
Yeah.
that it's not gonna be really a strain on the taxpayer, the fund balances in the end, so.
Well, I think that is the issue, is that, you know, this is if this needs to be a commitment that we want to do, Bill will lay out, you know, a preliminary of what we think it will cost to do, and then we need to decide if we're comfortable moving forward with that. That's what this conversation is about. But I have one question, would you, the test well program, can you just, I know that there was a well that you guys were thinking about over on Sound Avenue that they tested, and it was determined that, so just to show why the
Yeah.
test well program,
That was,
how it affects decision-making and why it's
That
helping.
was, Willow Ponds, everybody knows where Willow Ponds is on the Sound. We had identified a lot there, they had, expressed an interest of improving their pressure, up in Willow Ponds on the bluff there. And we had identified a location basically at the intersection, Sound Avenue, that we were looking at a pump or a new well. USGS went out there and did some preliminary review of it, and they have come back, and although they won't put it on paper, because.
Just need to
it has
talk
be
a little
published.
louder, I think it's.
Oh, they have identified that the saltwater interface up there is a lot closer than we had suspected, so they.
Getting closer every day.
It's getting closer every day, so,
That's why we're trying to get away from it.
So we've kinda scratched that one off as a location, it was, so working with them has, you know, that saved a considerable amount of time and effort, to drill a well there and find out our own, what was the problem there, so. Now we're looking a little bit further west, maybe a little further south. And, we're gonna locate two places, we're gonna drill down to probably about 600 feet and test the water all the way down and see if we could find some good quality water. And then.
Well,
also-
deeper than my well at home used to be about 18 feet down. I remember helping my dad as a kid drive the point down, and 18 feet seemed like forever when you were pounding it down, but 600 feet, my God, that's.
Actually, we're also gonna do wells for the USGS, and that's gonna help identify that interface, where exactly it is, different locations around the town, maybe more towards, town proper. And, those will probably go a little bit deeper, but be smaller, so,
They'll monitor them and see where
What's
the soil.
what's the diameter of an average well? That goes down the piping,
Casing.
the casing, yeah.
Like a 4-inch casing, right,
well, for
for
the
the test well.
monitoring wells is,
Yeah.
2.5 to 3 inch, and then yes, we're actually gonna do a 6-inch casing, just
Okay.
something a little bit beefier so we can get a little bit more water out of it, yeah. But yes.
So, we hired USGS, I think it was last year, and to start looking at this and see where the saltwater intrusions were coming in. And I know that other townships on the east end have also hired USGS, and I guess they're looking at it comprehensively to figure out if they're getting data from Southold that shows that it's too far north, that they're suggesting that we go in, so we're not just wasting money poking holes trying to find.
And that's exactly what we're doing, and, you know, through them, we have identified Willow Ponds as not a good place. We know that anything out east, say east of 105, not gonna be a viable place. You know, we have 3 wells out there at Plant 15, they're small wells, and they're good producers, and they're low in chlorides. But it's almost like you don't want to push the boundaries too much, it's,
What is the depth of the well at Plant 15?
500 feet,
500, yeah.
500, 452, I think, something like that, the 3 wells are.
And we're gonna ask the USGS to come in and just give us an update of what they're finding, so we figured maybe in January sometime we'll have them come in and give
Yeah.
us an update.
Now, the sod farmers are pretty much done, he's got the area, he needs about like a 500-foot, area to.
200, he needs about an acre,
Yeah.
200 by 200 to get it, but he can do it in 100 by 100, but the greater expanse he has to set up his equipment, the more accurate data he can get, so, but he can do it on 100 by 100 if need be, but we're trying to find 200 by 200 plots for him, so. I think he's gonna do one on Manor Lane.
The highway department facility,
Okay.
they do that one, and.
So now, when he's doing it, they're not doing water quality testing, they're not pulling any data on that, all they're doing is sending a pulse down and, based on the conductivity of the reaction time, you know, just like a boat, how far, you know, how long it takes that wave to bounce back up to them, they know they can estimate the conductivity and resistivity, and they get an accurate sense of the chlorides in the
Really?
ground there, yes.
When he comes in, you'll be amazed, that's probably one of the best things I ever did.
But yeah, it's not, by no means are we looking at water quality aside from chlorides.
And do you think there'll be mandates coming down, to monitor for other, things in the water coming soon?
Emerging contaminants?
That's what word I was looking for.
Without a doubt, Governor Cuomo just passed a law that gives New York State Department of Health the ability to set notification levels. The notification levels will most likely be on PFAs, which are perfluorinated compounds, and 1,4-dioxane. We've tested for 1,4-dioxane,
Our wells are clear right now,
our wells are non-detect, and that's below point,
7.0 of the human,
yes, it's 0.07 parts per billion.
Yep.
We've tested for PFCs, and thus far, we've been clear of them. So, that's where the most of them are gonna come. They are in the stages of UCM, they are in the stages of UCMR4, which is an EPA regulation, what makes them test 30 contaminants that we've never tested before. Most of them are metals and, some hormones, right?
Yeah.
Hormones.
And when is that
We're
expected to?
we're starting that.
Starting now?
We're doing our first set in January, February.
January, February, and then
We'll do it at the end of the year.
it's done over 18, 19, 20, and then in 2021, they give you the results.
What do they think, it's from medication flushing and stuff, or just,
Yes,
yeah,
it's, yeah.
don't flush the meds?
Don't flush your
Well, and we
meds.
just attended that, meeting with the Navy, talking about the residential wells across the street from.
Oh, down in Calverton?
Yeah, down in
Yes.
Calverton.
Which is pretty disconcerting.
Yes, it's,
they're surrounded by Brookhaven National Lab with the mercury spill, and then they had the gasoline spill right next to them, that was the MTBEs, and then they have the now Grumman facility, which was the testing site for the crashing, where they used to spray on the, the foam, which is now considered an emerging contaminant, that takes months to even detect it.
but not only is it an emerging contaminant, but they test down to such low, they go to the parts per trillion on that, and, you know, it's, for instance, you know, when we do iron, we're doing parts per million.
Right.
They're going to parts per trillion, so it's, even the slightest spill, it's coming up, so.
Yeah, but this is I mean, the state's mandate for the testing of these emerging contaminants is for Suffolk County Water Authority, for Riverhead Water Authority, for
Everybody.
Anybody who's delivering water.
Yeah,
Everybody,
so-
anybody considered a public water supplier, over a certain population, it might exclude, cause somebody like Stark Mobile Home, he's considered a public water supplier, cause he provides water to X amount of people. He might be excluded from it, but for anything else over, it's like 10,000 people or 8,000 people, they have to do all this stuff.
Is there any funding from the state available for this testing?
For one, there's a lot of funding available for emerging contaminants.
For the testing of it. And Suffolk County has been, Suffolk County Health Department, even some incidents that we have had here with MTBE, Suffolk County has, tested for them. When it did come, up positive, they put in the well filters for folks that are there. So, you know, that's one of the, if you do have a well, it should be being tested. And if you feel there's something, you can call the Suffolk County Health Department. There are folks over in the area that's covered by the Navy that I would have liked them to go door to door. We've requested for them to go door to door. They've put flyers out. We're not
Right.
happy that they are not doing that, to go to the people that have wells there. So we will continue to ask them to do that. I think it's very, very important for that.
Because I think they flagged certain neighborhoods, I know Penny's Drive, I believe Timber Drive.
Yeah, I think our facility,
We
years
gave
back.
them a list of,
a few years
Yes.
back,
Go ahead.
the Navy funded the extension of water main to feed the,
sportsmen.
Sportsman's Club,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and, so they are on public water, well, they're supposed to be on public water now,
They are.
okay, and then, so then it's just those areas south of Calverton in that, Manorville area that are, still remaining on private wells, and I think there's a.
But to your point, I'm told you're supposed to test your well at least once a year. Have your well, supposed to have your well tested once a year.
Yeah.
How many, or what percentage of wells or residents are private wells as opposed to town water supplies?
In town?
Yeah, are we,
I'd say
River
we're
has a large number.
probably about 95%.
90 to 95, I think, you
on
know.
town water.
Yeah.
There's a lot of,
Yeah.
there's,
We still have a lot
there's
of
a big,
Pockets, there's a lot of little pockets where
there's a
it's
big
open
area
land.
in Manorville, but it's, the density there isn't so great, homes are a lot further apart.
Right.
But there are definitely some private wells down in that area. There's a portion of Schultz Road that is serviced by, Riverhead Water District, but,
Water comes from Suffolk County, because they did underneath the Brookhaven grant, when the Brookhaven lab had the spill.
And I think that's the push to, you know, these emerging contaminants and the Navy testing these areas. I mean, they're only going a mile outside of the, you know, practice site that Grumman used to use for the spray-on, foam. So we know that contaminants run to the largest body of water, which is the Peconic River, and they're not even connecting to the Peconic River and testing everybody from the Peconic River to the test site. So I've spoken to Senator Laval's office about it, and I'm working with Mr. Blower in Senator Laval's office, who's very engaged and looking into possibly testing the monitoring wells that they have along those roads where the MTBE site was, to test additionally for the PFOS and PFAS. So hopefully that will become a part of the regimen that the state will pick up.
And the 1,4-dioxane, because it is detectable at small levels, I think inside the fence.
Yeah.
But they've had an issue that they say that they don't wanna test it, so we've been requesting, even if they just spot test, but to include that in their testing,
yeah.
so.
Yep.
They have not been agreeable to that at this point.
Who has not been?
The Navy.
Okay, yeah. I'll ask Senator Laval's office and his rep who I'm talking to over there, that if they do get the funding to test these wells for the PFOS and the PFAS, that they include 1,4-dioxane.
yeah, PFAS or PFAs and 1,4-dioxane, yeah.
Right.
Other emerging contaminants, but the PFAs and the 1,4-dioxane is what New York is, New Jersey, most of the nation is focused on.
Speak there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you know, I'm curious as to what they used to put out the Pine Barrens fires, because if they were using this, foam to put out the Pine Barrens fires, then that's even a bigger issue that needs to be addressed, and for homes, you know, that are not in the town of Riverhead, but that are surrounding those areas where, and when Grumman closed down, they just had all this extra, material where people, they would just say, come and get it, and fire departments were coming from all over the place to get this,
Foam.
spray-on foam to put out these fires, so it's a bigger problem, and for the people that are watching and that don't know what it is it's like the Teflon pans that you use in your kitchen, and, you know, if they get a little scratch in them and then it starts like peeling away, like, that's what's traveling through the water, and it never goes away.
Throw it
So,
away,
it's never going away, so, needless to say, I went to Target and bought all cast iron and threw away all my Teflon pots after learning about these PFAS and
Just
PFOS.
Something to do with microwave popcorn too.
The microwave
Yes.
popcorn, buy a hot air popper, and,
Yeah.
Yes.
make your pizzas at home.
Yeah.
Helpful food tips for today. So do you wanna continue, or?
I think, I'm pretty much wrapped up, you know, it's just, my last statement was just, you know, thank you again, and, you know, if you had any questions, you know, we're available now, we're always available. You know, feel free to call us anytime.
Is the painting of the towers in here?
Yes.
Is
Painting
that
of-
the maintenance and overcoat,
There's.
12 and 13?
Number 9 is actually rehab of the Plant 10 tank, which is up by Northfield Turnpike.
Okay,
The inside of that tank, and outside, that tank being so close to the bluff, it takes a beating. We actually looked at not only rehabbing it, but we've been in talk with replacing it in full with a concrete tank.
Concrete.
Or a glass,
You don't have to paint it.
a glass
Right,
line tank.
right.
So we're looking at different options there to make
Okay.
sure that the one option we do is, you know, the most, not only the best, most economical now, but in the future. The, number 10 is the one, the tank over by BJ's.
okay.
And that one is, yeah, that's ready. It's ready for
Yeah.
a facelift.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely ready for a facelift. And then part of the thing is with Plant 15, is Plant 15, when it's online, it'll enable us to take that off a little sooner and put it on a little later, so we can paint that. And then, 12 and 13 are the standpipes up at, Friars Head Golf Club and in,
Great Rock.
Great Rock Golf Club. Those are just overcoats, maintenance, it's not a complete blast and repaint, we
Sure,
just
I mean,
paint.
to look at the price difference,
Yep.
it's huge.
And then the last one is the teapot over on Pulaski Street, you know,
The Tin Man.
the Tin Man, the teapot, yeah. That's a small tank, doesn't really do a lot for us, but it's kind of the character of the town.
Good revenue for cell carriers.
Yep, good revenue
Yeah.
to sell carriers,
Yeah.
so, eventually we'll wanna address that again too, so.
Well, to Tim's point, all these projects are really overdue. I think it's important that we keep up with our infrastructure, and I'm glad that we're moving forward on these, so, good job.
Yeah, good job on this.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
So for the $23 million question, we will, yes, that'd be nice. We will turn, Bill, can you comment on some of the financing and the structure and how we might possibly do this?
Well, based on our projected tax rate now, and increasing it by the 2% every year, and projecting when we're doing these projects and the debt service that will increase over the years, obviously the decision is made the year that we're doing the projects, like now for the $5.7 million, that projected debt service we can cover with the tax rates we have now. And the board at the time will have to make a decision on what the increased tax rate would be in any given year to cover those projects. As was mentioned earlier, we do have key water money that we can use for these projects, and we have some fund balance that we can use for these projects. And that all just is gonna have to be managed on which project gets done. You can plan the best you want, but when one project leapfrogs the other one, or if we happen to get grants for one project that we can do sooner, none of the grant money is included in our calculations, but that is what would drive one project to be done sooner or later, because one project fails sooner than expected, or whatever it may be. But we should have sufficient, again, depending on our projections and the board, what fails at what point in the board's determination on which critical to be done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we will always identify with Dawn, you know, opportunities. You know, we can't count on those grant opportunities, but we'll always look out for them, and we'll always try our best.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think we have a pretty good shot at the manganese filtration system in plant number 5 and getting some of that funding. Even if it was 50% of the 3.6 million, that would be great.
Listen, if we don't get it this year, we'll apply it next year.
Yeah.
Right.
We have till 2022, so one of the times they'll get tired of hearing from us.
So irregardless of any sort of funding that we may or may not get, the current taxing structure that we have now, along with fund balances and key money, is enough to cover these debts, pretty much?
So the taxes is what drives the improvements to the district and the debt service that's incurred for the improvement of the districts. So between those taxes, the key monies that's meant for that also, and whatever fund balances in the district, that's what would go to fund all of these projects.
And I know you figured out some of that, and what year do we have the accumulation? Is there any year that we would not be able to make with the tax coming in and the,
Yeah, there are years going forward based on this that we're gonna be short 50,000, 160,000, but that's where we're going to key monies, and where do we take from that pot, how soon versus, you know, do we have to take from that pot in 2021? Some of that money for key money, do we have to take from fund balance in 2021 in order to make that level? And again, it depends on if there's any grants in the meantime, which projects get done, the timing of the project, and so forth.
and then one of the other things that is, key in all this is staff. You know, I mean, the staff that you've been working with over in the Water District, Mark, I know you you basically live here. So, one of the things that we had put in this year's budget, you're at 17 people. We've added a few more people, so you'll be at a complement of 20. So that you'd have the staff to be able to do these projects, and move forward with them. So that was one of the discussion, and I know that, you know, a lot of work was put into what it would take and conservatively to be able to have the staff and to be able to maintain the district, so,
And I was looking at the sheet regarding the budget and what department head requests were versus what was put in, and I know that in the Water District, you know, he didn't request additional people, but your budget says that he needs more people, so, you know, I'll have that conversation just with you as,
Well, we
I
can have that
interviewed as well.
conversation now.
Let's do it right now, Mark.
Yeah,
That
I-
was,
no, I had asked
it
for-
was,
I had asked
you
for
did
that.
ask for more
I asked for
people.
2 maintenance mechanics and 1 senior plant operator, I
Okay.
asked for that.
So you did ask
Re-
for.
I asked for that 3 positions, there was
Okay.
something going around, 5 positions or 6 positions, but the 3 I asked for, 2 maintenance mechanics and 1 senior operator,
So the original proposal was for 5 or 6 positions, and then it's now down to 3.
yes.
Okay, and the plant operator you don't need right now, right?
Well, we were looking for the senior plant operator to be right away, because there's only 2 people that are licensed to run the plant now, and if God forbid something happens to one of us, it really puts a strain. We have to be within the plant within an hour, or reachable by phone within an hour. The person that's responsible for the plant, it's me and my assistant, Tommy Kruger. So if one of us goes away, we're
Yeah,
out of the
you
country.
gotta have that third
Right.
So
person.
the
That's
third
good.
person would be a senior plant operator. He'd
So
be
that's
able
what
to-
you requested. I know there was talk about 5 or 6
Yeah.
people adding
Well, I
into the
think,
water
I think
district, but-
that was part of the whole discussion, because the way this is presented, and the way it is about the 6th, iteration of
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
and I
I'm
think,
sure it's gonna change
you know,
more
Yeah.
staffing
next
was
10 years,
about
too.
6 or 7 iterations, so I think that, you know, all of that was in the developing of the plan.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, but you can't work with a skeleton, Kevin, especially when you have
Right.
certain,
we got hit this year with that.
certain expertises with
We've
different
lost
levels.
people.
Yeah,
and
had retirements
really-
and people
yeah.
left, and
We're an old
The senior
group,
plant can do the other stuff, but the junior plant.
so,
So, any other
Man,
questions?
good luck.
no, thank you. No, thank you very much.
I know you're trying to set it up for retirement, it ain't happening.
No, this is very promising, I really appreciate this. I think,
I have
he has
been told that
restored faith.
yes, there's faith, there's faith.
we have heard that you put in really long hours.
Yeah, it's part of the job.
He does. I see him on Sunday mornings
I can't
digging
take a
up like,
ride.
digging up on a curb
That's what
stop.
the church
I
goes
can't
on
ride
Sundays,
through
In a
town and
residential
not,
neighborhood.
not pass them.
No, I know.
We all do a lot, we all do a lot.
My favorite is the 3 o'clock in the morning email.
Are you up?
Well, you automatically have that ping on your phone,
yeah.
right? That-
You don't always turn it off.
If I gotta be miserable, you do too.
Good.
Okay, thank you
Alright,
very much,
thank
we
you.
really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
very, very much, appreciate it.
Thanks, Phil. John.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Everybody.
Thanks, Bill, keep my water bill down, my sewer bill
Okay.
through the roof.
So we'll do the, 2019, chapter 255 changes.
The marathon.
It's the marathon,
It's
but we are
the
going to get through this.
255 marathon.
Coin's not coming in?
I'm not sure if I know he was sick the other day, so I'm not sure if he's not here, or, for Ray Coyne? They're just running, they'll be here. Okay.
Okay, good.
Good morning,
Morning,
Laura.
Laura. Good morning, everybody. Here's, hot off the press.
Another tree.
Okay, compared to my other 2 that I have here.
I know, I forgot to bring the other one too.
Oh, you have 2, I think?
Oh, yeah, this is hot off the press.
Yeah.
I do. Yes, here.
Well, Eric was supposed to be before me, and then taxi called, he said, get up, I'm like,
No pressure.
it's just good to get it done.
Yeah.
Okay. So are we waiting for Ray?
No, not for, we don't have to wait for
Okay.
this, yeah.
Okay, so after the last time that we spoke, I made the changes that were suggested and were, spoken about at the meeting. I just wanna go here. So the first thing that we did add is under 255-8, which is I think the 4th page in, 5th page in.
Yep.
Food vendor, thank you.
Yeah, we included food vendor. And what I did is I went to the Suffolk County Department of Health and went onto their applications, and they describe it as, let me just get on here, you could read it,
Each food or beverage vendor that
Right.
the organizer plans to have at their event.
okay? So I just added that, cause it was asked of me to include that, as
Good.
one of the definitions. It's really, I kept looking, Wikipedia, and I'm like, it's pretty straightforward, there's
You
no
kidding?
fancy language in that.
I could read
Okay,
that
then
one.
if we keep going on.
Well, you were also gonna change the charitable organizations and take out and shall provide services of funds that benefit residents in the town of Riverhead, right?
Yeah, we did take that out.
That was done.
Okay, yeah,
good.
that was taken out, because I actually called one of the clerks in the town clerk's office of Southampton this morning, and she said they keep that in, what I
As a
took out.
definition.
As a definition, because they do adhere to only organizations that have an office in the town.
Okay.
Like, she said the only exception she could think of was like St. Jude's, because it does benefit some people in the town that they're aware of. So, they did keep that
So
language
they have to
in.
have a physical location in the town that
Some
serves the
town of
community.
Southampton does, yes,
Okay.
okay.
In order to get a chapter 255 or whatever they call it there.
Under the
That's-
charitable
Under
rates.
if they get a charitable,
Okay.
waiver, okay. So then we keep going here, let me go to my
Ashley, overdue, Ashley's here.
I'm only doing the things that we did last time. Okay, if we go to.
Really, Ashley, not here, not today.
Page 5 of 12, it's letter C, number 2.
I'm sorry, it's.
Page 5 of 12, letter C, number 2,
We're kinda cut off.
okay.
It's in,
We had taken off,
oh, there it is.
at one time and collectively, actually, no, that was struck through and we unstruck it. See how it's unstruck on the bottom? Well,
Right.
on top, we also underlined it, so that's done as well now. And before, we had taken that out, and now we have it at one time and collectively in both places in number 2. Okay, and then we skip 3, 4, you wanted at peak attendance, so if you look at, 4, a plan and drawing showing the layout of any parking area for automobiles and other vehicles, and the means of ingress and egress for such parking area. Such parking area shall provide 1 parking space for every 4 persons at peak attendance.
Right.
Shall be in accordance with the so
Yep.
we added that. We 5, we had spoken about already, that wasn't changed. We'll go to page 6 of 12. That whole page, we didn't speak, let me see. Nothing changed since then.
No, B2 was struck out before.
Right. And then 7 of 12, I know we spoke about number 14, a copy of the completed application filed with the Health Department with the Emergency Medical Services. Craig Winsick, when he was here, Fire Marshal, he explained that to you. I'm sorry,
7 of
page 7
12.
of 12, I
Okay.
can slow down.
Alright, no, that's okay, I didn't.
Number
see what page.
14,
Okay, yeah,
Taking out the town board.
yeah, that's, you guys had questions about it, the board did, and Craig explained it, so you were okay with that, so
Yeah.
nothing changed there. I did place a call into Brad on number 18 of the same page. It says, if any type of banner is to be displayed adjacent to a town, county, or state road, the applicant shall include the size of the banner, location of the banner, and the dates it will be displayed, and submit approvals from the appropriate. I had put town in, but county and state was already there. I'm pretty sure for one of the roads we had, that they wanted to put a banner, one of the applicants.
Across
And
the
I
road.
thought, yeah, when Tony Charbel was over there, for building department for the sign permit person, he did make them get a town permit.
Sure.
I put a call into Brad, he said he'd call me back, but he didn't call me before I came here.
Yeah, my understanding is they need a permit from the town to do
Right,
that,
if it's a
anything
town
on the
road,
yeah.
so that's why I added town to that.
Yep.
Okay,
For
and,
temporary signs or
Right.
a banner.
yeah, it will be a temporary sign. Okay, and 20,
but I also think there's been issues that have come up where somebody wants to pre-advertise for their event with signs. So they would be required to have a complete application or an approved application before they can put up any signs? Do we have that anywhere in
that's
here?
not anywhere in there.
But like, I'm just saying for
yeah.
the light show, right, they wanna put up signs, so they have to
Right.
get a permit to put up their signs. But how long are we allowing somebody for a temporary chapter 255 to put up their signs, so they should not be more than 30 days prior to the event, or are we gonna have?
We can codify that, there's nothing in here now, basically it's been going along with whatever the building department, whatever the temporary sign,
But I think
their
that theirs, I think is
specifications are.
I think theirs is like 180 days or something like that, it's a long time.
Okay,
So
so
I
we
don't
would
know
have
if-
to address that then.
I think, yeah.
Okay, again, for the holiday light show.
Yeah,
since-
so I think they
okay.
should, they have to get a permit, but the permit is only good for 30 days prior to the event.
And then
That
it
makes
should also say that they have to take it down
Yeah.
within 7 days of the event.
Yeah.
What's the sign permit? Well, that's a whole separate thing. The sign permit code is 30 days, you saying?
No, our
It's
permit.
No,
180
it's more than
now.
that.
Yeah.
What?
It's 180 right now,
The sign permits?
yeah,
For a temporary sign permit, yeah.
temporary,
Oh, okay.
like the political signs.
I'm pretty
and
sure it's
stuff, we have to
180
get
Well, I know
those.
political signs, I was just talking about like event signs.
Yeah,
But that would-
180 days, we need to cut that down for events.
Yeah,
Right, we gotta,
I think
Okay.
30 days is appropriate and 7
Well, we
days
gotta-
after, like
right,
Jody
we
said,
gotta-
I think
we gotta
it's
change the
30
sign
days.
code,
Okay,
sign ordinance.
so 30 days prior and 7 days after to
Mhm.
have it removed, okay, so we'll add that. Okay, and then we can go to the next page, which is nothing, because that's the way it printed out from the code. And so we'll go now, it's page 8 of 12. We changed and I didn't put it on here, on letter B, if you look at the last, 30 days here, we had it. And we really didn't wanna, but we probably have to read the whole paragraph. The applicant shall file with the town board before obtaining such license a certificate of public liability insurance covering the applicant and the town of Riverhead for personal injuries, comprehensive general liability, in an amount satisfactory to the town attorney, which policy shall name the town as an additional insured and should be non-cancelable without we had 15 when we discussed it, we decided 30 days. Prior written notice to the town. Said insurance policy shall be approved as to form, sufficiency, and limits of coverage by the town attorney. And then we had added, applicants shall submit notification from their insurance company 24 hours in advance, but I think we said 72.
Whatever you feel, I mean, you're dealing with this all the
I
time,
think
so.
72 is better, I'm gonna change
Yeah, I
that
think
to
that's what you had
72.
said last
Yup.
time.
And then I also added, failure to submit said notification shall result in a $250 non-refundable administrative fee. That was asked to be done for that one.
Or if we're doing this and we have non-refundable fees, things like that, should we ask for some sort of deposit that we can draw from? You know, if you're having a large event, should they give, a $500 refundable deposit, that in case we have to clean up garbage, in case we have to, do this,
Well, that
so
goes
that-
by, again, where there's a provision in here that we can ask for some kind of performance security prior to.
Okay.
It's already been addressed.
Okay.
So if we feel that it's a really large event and we have to ensure that it's cleaned up, the code already provides for a provision that we can ask for performance security
okay,
to make sure that it's cleaned up. That's already been addressed, okay?
So I
And
get
you
an insurance
typically-
policy 30 days in advance, or whatever it is.
That's for the certificate of insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
And then now, 73 days before the event, you want
confirmation.
a confirmation from the insurance company.
And if they don't do
If
it.
you don't, I get a fine of $250.
Mm-hmm.
The responsibility's on the person having the event, that's all that this is doing.
I'm just
Yeah.
asking, that's all.
Yeah, the responsibility has to be on them, because it is crazy,
I
the
think
stuff that
when
you have
this
to go through for these
first
events.
gets instituted, and a lot of these people are repeat applicants, we're gonna have a lot of phone calls.
But the fine comes after, it doesn't come out of a deposit they've made?
That's what we're saying, that you can't have
And how
them,
do we know they're gonna
that's,
pay it?
that's
Your
why,
question.
yeah, that's my question,
Okay.
exactly.
You're
I-
paying,
I
you're paying
agree.
for the application, you're paying for, all along the line, so this is a fine, really. It's not-
Right, but are we gonna have to, I don't think we should have to go after for somebody for
Right.
their fine, I think they should give us the money up front, and if they comply, then they get their,
Then we
then
refund
Well,
we
that's
refund
not
them.
even, that's not even stated in this.
But that's what I'm saying,
That
so,
would be
Oh, good lord.
your office again,
Right,
doing more.
they pay up front, and then they would have to come in and sign a voucher to get to be refunded, but they would want to do that, I would think.
yeah,
I mean, anything else
Yeah.
you do, you pay a deposit and then you get it back, if you comply.
Okay,
Alright.
so what is it that you're looking, is there a set dollar amount that you're looking to
well, I
collect prior
think,
to?
I think when you have, what, the performance bond, the performance, I think they should pay a performance deposit to pay depending on the size of the event. It's whatever these fees are, that if they don't make it up, if it's $500 that they could be fined for not having the things in, then the deposit should be $500. I mean, you don't have to cash, they have to do it by check, you don't have to do anything, you just return their check to them.
If that's the way you wanna set it up.
Yeah, I would set it up that way, that you take the check in,
Just hold it.
and once the event is over, they come back and, I mean, if
I don't like
that works that way with
I don't like that.
Bill, but,
That's what other places do.
That don't make it right.
It happens all
I'd
the
cash
time.
the check and then give them a town check back to have a better
That-
record
well,
keeping.
that- that's a
Just makes for
bill.
more bookkeeping.
Well, if they stop paying on the check, then what are you gonna do?
we'll leave it to accounting to tell us how to do that, whether.
Okay, so performance security shall consist of,
Well, any
Application fee?
non-refundable fees that may happen, if there's a fee if they don't clean up after the event, if there's a fee if they're, like, there's $250, they should give a deposit for that amount,
okay,
right? Because you're saying to them, cause are you gonna go after them? I mean, it'll be exhausting. If they don't give you the 72-hour notice, then you have to go back after them. First of all, they're non-compliant to begin with, and now you're gonna have to go after them to be a non-compliant person to get more fees.
but it goes back to two maybe, and I know we probably wouldn't do that, but if they don't give us what they were supposed to do, even if it's 2 days before the event, it should be denied, it should
Correct.
be canceled.
Correct, okay.
Correct.
And
That's
people
when
know
Diane
that we
Bates
don't
said
do
that's
that,
what denied
so
the
that's why
answer.
they keep running,
So then this should not be that failure to submit this notification shall result in $250. It should just be your event will be canceled.
yeah, I
I
like that better.
mean, if.
As long as whatever
This is
we
what
do has
you
bite.
had
That makes it
requested
easier
last
Yeah.
week,
in
I
terms
just
of
put it in.
grabbing checks and depositing them and,
And is this for all the applications or only the larger ones?
No, all of them,
Everything.
Everything.
everything, yeah, shall be cancelled. I mean, on one of the events that we're gonna have on Saturday, they just changed their brewery distributor on Tuesday.
It changed their what?
Where they're getting their beer from, they just changed it day before yesterday, and the event is Saturday. So now I had to get, that's what you just signed for as the landlord. So now I had to get new certificate of insurance for the new beer distributor, I had to see that they had a permit, and now the town, because it's town property, the supervisor on behalf of the town had to execute a landlord, authorization that has to go back to the brewery, they have to upload it over to the, SLA, and SLA has to get it back. So I told them, if I don't have it by the end of today, 4:30, they can't have any alcohol, because I'm not here tomorrow, and this isn't our fault, you know, you can't change
right,
who you're gonna bring beer 3 days before the event, it's, you know, I mean, hopefully, we're working, we want them to have it, and we're trying to accommodate the best we can, but we're literally
But
down to
things
like
like that,
hours.
but things like that are happening on almost every single
All the
application,
time.
so that's what we're trying to eliminate with all of that.
Craig and I, we spend a lot of time on chapter 255, it's taking away from other.
All the clerical work.
Yeah.
Back on some paralegal.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly,
Hey, that's well with me.
I know it
Okay.
does.
So, let's see
Diane.
what else. All
putting
right,
a second story on the town, clerk's
Yeah.
office.
Alright, so 72 hours in advance of the event, if you verify insurance validity, failure to submit certification shall result in
and the cancellation of said
cancellation
event.
of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I'll do it,
Good.
I'll prepare another one now with these changes. So let's see, cost reimbursement, we didn't change that. I did add on letter D on the same page, the town board may require the applicant to provide a letter of credit, bond, or other suitable security instrument to secure compliance with the conditions of the permit. And then I added for an event to be conducted on town property, that's what you had asked me to do. And to ensure, and it keeps going on, so that was the change in D. Letter E, we did not have any changes. We go to the next page, 9 of 12. Verification of payment, it was changed, an applicant that is a not-for-profit organization.
So,
That is a
For-profit.
for-profit, I'm sorry, so we took out, not a charitable organization, we replaced it with is a not-for-profit organization.
I'm confused, this is F?
F, yeah.
So
and
verification of payment, an application that is a for-profit organization.
shall have 90 days, before it said not a charitable organization.
Okay.
So we just kinda cleaned that up a little bit, and we said not-for-profit. Okay, and then we didn't change anything for notification of joining property owners, that's, the fire marshal may require, so that's not always have to be in place. Then we go down to 25511, letter B, we had added possible conflicts with other events and seasonal demands which may overtax or cause an undue burden on town services, parades and special events, shall be considered if the parade or special event occurs within 30 calendar days of another parade or special event, and is to occur during the period of Memorial Day. We had Labor Day, but you asked it to be changed to Veterans Day.
Yep.
Okay. And we skip that page, now we're on 10 of 12. Okay, letter E, we had already discussed, privilege is just cleaning it up. I did add on 25512 application fees, A, I did put a non-refundable application fee, before it said shall be accompanied by an application fee. So I put refundable. And, on C, we had late application shall occur fee of $20 per day, 10, I increased it to $20. Beyond the submission deadline, and it will be accepted as set forth in 255-9B. So we had a late fee for late applications, we said 20 and then 10, we upped it to 20,
Okay.
I don't know why I keep saying that. Okay, and then, on letter D, that we didn't change it since last time that we spoke. An amendment to the application for parade will be subject to an amendment fee of 25% of the applicable application fee. Amendments may include changes to the location, route, parking plan, number of people expected, etc. Amendments to fire safety plans or parking plans at the request of the town are not considered amendments. So if we make a
Right.
change, we
Yeah.
don't penalize them for it. And we're almost at the end. And then the last that we changed is the last page, 25520, and our deputy town attorney had asked for stricter or more precise penalties for offense that he can impose in justice court, and everybody had agreed to that. Failure to obtain a special event permit as defined herein shall be an offense, and the fine shall be the applicable special event application fee, plus an amount not less than $250, no more than $1,000. Each day that such event occurs, is conducted, or otherwise takes place without a special event permit having been issued, shall be considered a separate offense.
Okay, good.
My only question is I know a lot of times just fee-wise, people will say they're having less at their event than they're having. Would that be covered in this also? So somebody says they're gonna have 200 people and they end up with 1,000.
And I don't think we would do less, because we would require less from them, if the other instance, if it's more.
That's what I mean, if it's more,
Yeah.
if it's more,
If it's
so what
more,
happens, so this would fall under too, if somebody underestimates their event by a
Yep.
lot, okay,
Because it's not what the application said, it was more.
okay.
They had
Okay.
more to use. So that's what I've gotten so far.
Good job.
Very good. I have a couple questions just from some of the stuff that we've gone through. And this is a question for the board also. There's a lot of events that come in, when the event, chapter 255 comes in, the application gets sent over to fire marshal and to the police. Who else does it get sent to? Anybody else? Just those two?
Well, all the town board members, but
Right.
those are the working
For comment,
components
yeah.
is police, fire marshal, and town attorney.
Right, so a lot of times what happens is the information from the police is not coming back as to the cost for the events. So it's not making back to the 255, so I think in the application fee, there'll be some checks off to that. But the other question really is, who gets charged for police resources to be used for their events? Because there is a cost, they do figure out the cost for each and every event. The Wading River Chamber of Commerce is having an event, I think it's closed for almost 8 hours, I think the police fee was somewhere up around 21.45. So who are we charging for police fees and who are we not charging for police fees? What is our threshold here?
Anybody that needs police should be paying for police fees.
So the Chamber of Commerce, moving forward when we implement this, anybody who requires police for their event will be charged the fees for the police?
As long as they're not a branch of the town.
Yeah, cause
Right.
otherwise the taxpayers are subsidizing
I
Wading
don't
River or
I don't disagree with
Jamesport
you,
or-
but that's currently,
No.
there's no practice in place to address it.
I thought that whenever the chief said, you need police or you need traffic control officers, that the applicants always paid for it.
That's not
Riverhead
happening,
Central
'cause
School District has 5K runs all over the roads, they incur police costs, they don't get charged. That's an example, one, there's many.
but what's a couple of the other examples that we don't,
Let's see, who else?
Chamber of Commerce events?
Chamber of Commerce, we're now doing the runs, Little Flower, they canceled, but they were gonna have a 5K. Because they're a not-for-profit, we weren't gonna charge them. Basically, if they're not-for-profit organization, we wouldn't charge them police assistance.
But then the taxpayers are subsidizing the police
Absolutely.
service, so,
Absolutely.
how do we feel about that? Is, any event that requires police, other than a town event, we will be charging for police?
But what comes back to me is, well, then I can't afford to have this event, because we're looking to make money for our organization, and now that you need, if I have to pay this, and this for the application fee, and I have to pay this much for the police, then I can't have my
Yeah,
event,
but it's
because
not
we're
up
not
to
gonna
the
make it.
taxpayers
Right.
to subsidize their event, so.
Right, but this is just what you're
Right.
going to hear.
But I think people need to know, they need to incorporate it into the event, and they need to incorporate it into the fees for their event.
What do
That's
you,
why
what
I
do you
think we
define
need-
as a town event?
What was that?
What do
What
we
do you
decide
define as a town event?
To me, they're all town events.
Well,
No, I
you're
mean,
saying
like
separate town
the
events.
business improvement district is.
Well, the business
in-
improvement
Country
district,
Fair,
you know,
the townscape is a branch of the town of Riverhead, correct?
No,
It's
I-
not,
they're
it's
their
a
own
private
charitable,
entity.
I think
they're their own
this
non-profit.
goes back to that 7-year list,
Yes,
and who are we identifying as participants in that? So I think
which
That's-
I have that list.
Yeah.
The bid events, any of the bid events, the chamber events?
Bid events would be us.
Well, bid events is a taxing district,
Yeah, the
bonfires,
business,
town
big
events.
ones there, managers, so that would be on there
Tied
as
the
well.
Lions Club parade,
Maybe
it's
something maybe we could
bonfires,
put
that's a
for
town event.
ambulance,
So we
but
have
then it would
Church
be
of the
in-
Harvest Plant Sale is 10 years, we have Long Island Fleece and Fibers, 10 years, we have PBMC 5K is 10 years, we have Duck Pond Day is 10 years, we have PBMC Carnival is 10 years, we have Jamesport Fire Department Carnival is 10 years, Polish Town Fair is 10 years, Family Fun Day at Church of the Harvest is 10 years,
But they have, that one has skipped a few years in between.
Old Steeple Summer Fair, I know that they delayed it, like the Family Fun Day, they've put it off because of inclement weather.
When I spoke to them, they said they hadn't held it in a
Well, they
couple
don't
years.
use police anyway, do
I
they?
could tell you this in my directory, I
So
say
for all of
every
those
year.
events,
We don't
pay
always
for the
use police.
Yeah,
Yes.
police aren't
That doesn't
used for
seem
all
right.
those events either.
And then 10
No.
years is Halleckville,
A lot of the
County
smaller ones.
Country Fair, and
No.
the Railroad Museum, Wooden Toy Train Days, 10
But
years.
they don't require police.
But
When
I'm
is
just
the
telling you,
Halleckville?
and Run for the Ridley is 10 years.
So I think maybe as we do
They do use police.
financial impact statements with the resolutions, I think we should have that form submitted with the resolutions for the 255, whether there will be police required and the fee for the police. As well as whatever other fees are accompanying the application.
The application has to be totally redone, and that's just another.
Well,
item
that's, right, but I think that's
That's
the procedure part of it, as opposed to the resolution, to gather the information.
Okay.
So I guess, I think we should leave this as it is. I think we should do one more session and confirm our fees,
Yes.
because otherwise I think it's very confusing.
I'm going crazy going through this thing, cause I'm looking for the fee schedule, I know that everything refers to 255.9.
No, the fee schedule is a
It's
separate
here.
it's a
It's
separate
on a
resolution.
separate sheet.
Right, so, but I think we
had no
should,
questions on that, but I can,
I
have
think,
them
I
here.
think that we should do have one more work session that goes over the fee schedule. So, because I know that each and every one of us, anytime these events are gonna come through, we are going to be asked to
Right.
I have a
change
couple.
and modify and whatever to these fees, so I think that,
This is from last week, I didn't reprint them.
Did
I
you
had
make the
extras.
changes as we discussed in the first meeting, where you went from 750?
Yeah, no, you got
Yeah.
the messy one, Jody, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
they're,
That was-
uh,
Yeah, they're all changed.
Well, this is my copy.
Oh,
that
that's
I
yours,
made
oh,
notes
okay,
on.
good, okay.
see, but we
something
have,
else like that, too.
we're still very confused about what a not-for-profit organization is, I think.
Yeah, on there.
Well,
I don't-
the application fee went up already, so we were charging 200, or it went up just for us talking about it? Just curious.
The application fee
For what, Jim?
So the spent short form went from 200 to 350 already, and we didn't even,
Oh, I have
yeah.
correct.
Right.
So that's going on its own, or do we always charge $200?
Well, this is, you know, this is also, it hasn't gone up in a while, and when we look at the staffing requirements for this, it is, you know, we are not covering our costs to process these applications.
When was the last time these were changed?
I've been here almost 28 years. It's
Okay,
been the
this
same.
It's time.
Well, I have no problem with the fee, but I don't wanna justify it, period. Otherwise, it's a tax, and I don't like extra taxes.
You know what, I heard Jim, but the country fair, and it's something that we should talk about, is that a lot of the vendors, I had spoken to a couple of them that had been here in past years, and they said that the insurance requirements are so strict.
That's why we didn't partner with the town this year, the town killed us last year.
For the 5x5 booth, that they have to
That's
put
why
up
we
$1
did not
million
partner.
in coverage,
That's why we didn't
so-
partner with the town. We took our own insurance out. We paid the 5,000, get our own policy, and we insured the vendors.
Because
We
I
went through
think,
the town, each vendor had to go fill out a packet about 9,000 pages to go through the town attorney to get their own insurance, and it was cost prohibitive.
Did you get reimbursed from the vendors for that?
No, the vendors had to buy that outright, that's why Heaven didn't even show up.
well, that's why, that's part of the problem, so I
But
think
we're not
that,
partnering with the town anymore, so it's not an issue.
So maybe we need to review what our policy is at this point to see, make sure that it is,
No, it's best that we as an organization take our own insurance policy, our own umbrella, and then do our own vendors, cause it costs them $6 instead
Okay.
of $50.
You didn't do it this year, though?
We did it this year.
Oh, you did, this was the first year you did it?
Yeah, well, we had 2 years of rainouts, so people were
Right.
still kinda tentative about coming back, but now that they realize that
they don't have to take
you
out
didn't
their own
spend, you didn't spend all
insurance.
year, crocheting potholders, and it's gonna cost you $300 to get a booth to sell $200 worth of potholders, so.
Right, you're just insuring the whole event.
And each vendor individually.
Right, and that's what the, whoever's running the event should be doing.
Sure.
Right, but
Yeah.
we
But 1 year,
always
because
required
the
subsequent
insurance,
insurance.
about 2 years
fees,
ago,
not the whole
3 years ago, the
thing.
insurance changed. And it was too cost prohibitive for the townscape to do that. So we partnered with the town, similar to what Live on 25 did and all these bid. So we partnered with them to try to cover that, and it just,
It didn't work.
it did, it was just, you get government involved, it's really messed up, so.
So on this, we still have the question of the not-for-profit organization, local charity zoning only. What does that mean?
Right. Good
What was
question.
it funded because of others enough purposes to be recognized from engineers that we do register to New York and supply funds. Well, we omitted and shall provide services or funds that benefit residents of the town of Riverhead. Because like the American Diabetes Association, they may have their headquarters in Dallas, Texas, they can have it in Cincinnati, Ohio, they can have it in Florida. But meanwhile, the organization, I believe as a whole, I don't know their bookkeeping, but I would think that if there's a breakthrough in some kind of technology from the funds of this in the whole United States, that someone in Riverhead that had diabetes would be affected by that, you know.
I think that's stretching it.
It,
Because
That
I
is
think,
stretching.
but because I think
That's a far reach.
most people that are doing an event are fundraising events. And as such, most of our applications end up not paying anything. I mean, I think what we looked at it one year, it was less than half, or paid any fees.
yeah, you're right.
You know, so I don't think that we can continue to do that.
Well, that's, with the parentheses here saying local charities only, I think that's what we need to define.
Correct, I
Is
agree.
there a local benefit, or is it a locally based charity? I think that's where the difference is we're referring to.
The town of Southampton said it's a local-based charity.
And I would tend to agree that would be the test to decide whether it gets a waiver in the fee or not.
Because like, I think American Diabetes, again, I don't think there's a chapter of that or an office here in the town of Riverhead, so.
Cancer Society too, I mean,
Right.
a lot of the
There's a
big
lot of
ones
them.
that,
And they pay all these fees in other towns.
Well, then we should define what local, I mean, it should be maybe further described as a place having office and residents within the township or whatever. I mean, it should be further described exactly what we mean by that.
Yeah, I agree that they should have a local office here. They should have a physical address for an
or
office.
we address non-local charities at a different rate. Or they go to the
I think
regular rate.
they go to the regular rate.
Regular rate.
If we have, we'll analyze it again at the end of a year of doing this, and if we find that that's not where we wanna be, then we can make an adjustment at that point, but.
So she'll have an office located within the town of Riverhead?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll add that.
Or that. Or that they're, whatever the fundraising they do benefits.
An
But then
office
we go back,
representative.
but that's when we go back to, who do they donate to, and nobody wanted to do that, and that's the not-for-profit, so.
But I'm saying, like, I know that I'm only using Townscape because that's what I'm very familiar with, but our president is moving to East Merchants. So the mailing address might be East Merchants, but everything that Townscape does is strictly for Riverhead, whether it's flower baskets or.
But how do we determine that? Like, that's, how do
What I
we?
mean.
Well, their web base is in Riverhead, their mailing address is in Riverhead, Townscape's mailing address is in Riverhead, on their
I
website.
think it's a P.O. box, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Riverhead.
Now it's a P.O. box.
Yeah. And I mean, that's where it's the discretion of the board also, when the application comes in.
That's what I
You
thought
know,
that.
you could say, okay, reporting office, the Townscape doesn't have a local office, they have a local P.O. box, and, somebody from either Townscape would have to come, or we know them very well, so we would know that
You said
they're.
a physical address, and all I said was, if somebody came in from California, and they're gonna come here, and they're gonna run $1 million fundraiser for Halleckville, and all the profits are going to Halleckville. Well, that's a fundraiser for,
Well, I think at that point, we have the discretion to make a decision then, but they would certainly have to petition, because right off the bat, it wouldn't have to be Laura making the decision, or Diane making the decision, it would be the board. If the board chose to waive something like that, we could, but it wouldn't happen off the bat, they'd have to petition the board to do that.
pretty
the
unlikely
benefit would
scenario,
have to be received by the town of Riverhead, by people in the town of Riverhead.
Yeah.
Even though the charity might be based outside the town, say the American Cancer Society does a fundraiser, but they're making a donation, say to PBMC, that would be, in my mind, that would be acceptable.
Okay. That would be case by case, all right.
But then you go back to them having to show that they've made the local donation
Right.
for the not-for-profit,
Right.
which you guys didn't wanna do. So, you
But
know,
we have it in there.
no, I
on-
believe we
but
removed,
for-profit.
I think you said sometimes they don't end up making the donation, or it's so minimal, I think we had that
To tell you the
conversation.
truth,
Well,
it
they get,
doesn't always get checked.
Right.
right,
Right.
and if they get certain courtesies or certain, because they claim that they are, then they should prove that they are.
But
If
so
they're
then let
not,
them come back to us.
who cares?
let them petition us after the event to show what they did and say, you know, I did this, can I have some fees refunded? Let them,
Now, if they get no consideration,
let them put
then
the
I
onus
don't think
on
they
them.
have to prove anything.
Well, I think, I'm not speaking for you, Diane, but for myself, and I believe you as well, if we have any kind of discrepancy, or we're not sure if it falls out of the perimeters of what we do, we always come to the town board, we don't make those decisions.
But what I'm saying is even just to take it off, so say if you have somebody and you decide, somebody says they're gonna donate and the board feels, okay, maybe it's something that you would want to consider as part of the local charity, they pay all the fees as a non-local charity, and at the event of the event, if they wanna come back and say, and petition the board, okay, we were a local charity, that we did A, B, C, and D, can I have my fees refunded to this level? And we can do it that way, let them figure it out, not us.
Okay,
Let the onus be on them.
Yeah,
okay. So we're gonna leave it this way,
I would, yeah.
Yes.
okay. All right, but I am still gonna define local charities, correct? Okay,
As having a local office.
right. Mm-hmm.
Or PO box.
Well, a P.O. box for, I wouldn't do the
You need a
P.O. box,
physical, you need a
60
physical
bucks for a
address, you need a
P.O. box.
physical address.
Yeah,
Yeah, but Townscape doesn't have a physical
Then-
address, so going back to that.
Well,
But
they
they
have
can
other
come back
people,
and
maybe
petition.
someone in
Our
Riverhead.
mailing
can-
address is 200 Howell as well, I got a box here too, so.
Okay. Okay. And this late application fee, I believe we changed that to, it's 20 per day, and we're taking out if more than 60 day late, 20 per day, so that has to be changed. The late application fee is $20 per day beyond submission deadline as prescribed in chapter 255-9B, which is correct. We took out in the body, if more than 60 days late, 20 per day.
it's just mimicking what's in
Right.
here.
So you took out the 10?
Yeah, I took out
20.
the 10, it should say 20. And then, if more than 60 days late, 20 per day, that's gone. It's gone, it'll be gone here on the fee schedule, and it's already gone.
So it's just $20 per day beyond submission deadline,
Right.
period.
That's gone, it's out of the text, that was one of the things I changed for today.
Okay.
Okay, and then the fee for amendment is what we said, the 25%, there's a fee of the application, 25%, application, if it includes changes that we tell them they need to do, the town, then they won't be subject to that 20%, 25%. And then, really, the liability insurance is out there anyway, but I'm making it more clear, because people say, you know, well, where does it say I need 2 million per occurrence and 2 million general aggregate? And I said, well, go back to the application, I'll show you where it is. So I just wanna keep it all together, cause that's a lot of times.
Sure.
You know, in fact, the reason why this local, where we had a change in the alcohol, provider, is because they had 1 million per occurrence, 2 million general aggregate, and I told the applicant, I need 2 million per occurrence because it's alcohol related. Well, they came back and said, we're not changing the alcohol, we're not increasing, we're not paying the money, so she had to scurry around and get somebody else that would provide the 2 and 2. So that's what happened in this
Heck,
instance.
one year we tried to get 5.
I know, yeah, but that's like really cost prohibitive,
Yeah,
a
that
lot of
was-
money,
that
yeah.
I was making a drink just thinking about it.
And I think that's it, the rest was all
Alright, thank you very
done.
much.
Okay, so I'll do these few changes, and then I'll try to get it in the format like that we use, that I can put on the minute track.
Okay,
Cause this came off of the web,
okay.
so you know when you try, you return and it like, the
It
margin
resizes.
goes way over there, and I'm like, you know, how do I do this? So that's gonna take a day in itself, but, alright, very good, thank you very much.
Alright, thank you very much, very nice job.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Laura.
Alright, so now we will do the 2018 Summer Park Program Report.
Hi, Ray.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We lost Ashley.
Oh, you think that's good?
She's gonna have her baby. She's going to the doctor.
Where'd she go?
Doctor appointment.
Oh.
She's sick.
Is she overdue, or is she
Yeah, overdue.
overdue?
Yeah. So, all right, we have, we broke it down into packets, so we're gonna give everybody one packet each, and I'll go over all the paperwork with. Thank you. How are you, Jordan? No, we should have enough. I'm doing well, how are you doing? We have more, Jordan? We have more, yeah. There you go. You have more than that for the media? They got it. Oh, they got it, all right, good job. All right, so this is basically just from the spring and summer. We have 3 seasons, but the spring and summer is our main season. So each year we break it down and we build it back up based off numbers. So this is this year's number. So this is kind of like an overview of from 14 to 18, so you can see where the trends are going. And we look at the total number of courses offered versus canceled courses. We see that the trend is going up as the ratio from 15% to 19%. So we're canceling more classes, and that's something we got to take a look at. Why we cancel more classes, things like that, and that's broken down down the road.
Canceled courses could be lack of interest or lack of, registrants?
Yeah, and what we do is every time there's a canceled course, we have them populate and we track it to see why it was canceled. And mostly it's just insufficient participation.
And is there any cost to a canceled class?
No, not at all, not to us.
So maybe you cancel something that's no longer course residents are interested in, and you seek out something that's new and upcoming.
Yeah, and you'll see how we do it.
Okay.
We do it, there's so many different variations in what direction we go in. Because the numbers tell a story, so I'm a numbers guy and I love the storytelling, so the next page is kind of like another big breakdown. It's kind of like a synopsis, and then I break it down even further. So you can kind of see basically how we do it, and this is a 3-year trend. I always do it in 3-year trends. So total registrations, from 16 to 18, we're up 11%, which is good. And we did have a breakdown in 17, and that was, we lost Jim Janasek, and that kind of was a blow to us. And a lot of the programs that he ran kind of suffered, so we built it back up. Jordan's now here, and Ashley, they've done a great job building it back up. So you kind of like to see that from 17 to 18, we went up 11%, so we're back to where we should be, but the overall growth is what we want to look at in the 3 years, and we grew 7%. And so now we break that down even further, so males and females. The males, we saw 2 years ago, that the female to male ratio, a lot more females versus males. So we targeted the males and added more programs like adult basketball, more golf programs, things like that. And you can see it worked. We saw a 14% increase overall from 16 to 18. And then the female category kind of stayed, it increased 8%. 1% overall in the 3 years, so it kind of stayed within its realm. So,
And this is all age groups?
correct. Well, we break down the age groups even further, but that's the overall, yeah. And then we look at this, and this is something I really want to target, and I know why we're not doing this. Online versus in-house, you can see the difference. In-house is a lot more than online, and that's basically because of the charge. We charge people to use their credit cards. And basically it's percentage and then $1 on top of that. That's the law. That's something we have to do as a municipality. So we see a lot more checks, which is a burden on the office, and it's harder than obviously the credit cards, but we're working with Dan McCormick, working on maybe a credit card system that will allow us to not charge that, so. But you could see.
There's always a fee with the credit cards.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when people are coming in-house, that's all checks, or is that credit cards also in-house?
It's a combination. So these, basically what it says is how many people are registering online and how many people are registering in-house. But mostly, even in-house, we see 80% checks. And in the
In-house,
past.
you're gonna ask questions.
What's
You know,
that?
if I'm coming in to sign up for something, I may have a couple questions about the program.
True,
where
yeah,
I may not be able to get that online, so I'll come in and sign up and ask my questions then.
Yeah, no, and we still like that. We like people coming
Right.
to the office. We just wanna see a little bit more online, because it's a big variance.
Yeah, I noticed too though, and you may have fixed it, but a couple years ago when I was trying to register my kids for some programs and my password didn't work, and then I had to contact the account administrator, so I had to call the office anyway to get a new password to
Yeah, we
get
saw
onto
that.
the system, so,
We did correct it, that was more of a Rec Pro issue, but since then, they have allowed us to actually make the changes, it was then, but we saw a lot of what you were going through 2 years ago, and even some last year, and we were able to fix it this year.
okay,
That's been a lot
so
better.
that might
That could have
help
been, yeah.
also.
Yeah. So then we go down even further, and this is something that we really focus on, is the age categories. It goes from 0 to 9, and you go all the way down to even 99. We have some 99-year-olds coming in, 100-year-olds. It's slow, but, so you can see where we're.
Whatever they're doing, we wanna do.
So one of the age, categories that we did, I know, that we had success with, that we targeted, last year and the year before, was 20 to 39. You could see it went all the way down to 78. So we really then targeted that age group with programs, and it worked. So we jumped right up 81%, in that age category. 40 to 49 is still a challenge. We see that challenge, we're gonna brainstorm programs for that age category. But then you see 50 and up, and that's really the pickleball.
People are starting to get into the seniors.
Yeah, and we're adding more senior programs.
40, 49, people are working, trying to raise their kids.
Right, busy running their kids around.
We want them to
programs.
recreate though. That's my age category, come on.
Well, they might be recreating, just not on seniors.
That's true. All right, yeah, and the seniors, you see it picking up, because with the merger, we're offering a lot more senior programs. Pickleball has exploded, that's a big area. So we kind of take a look at this as a group and say, okay, well, we obviously know we need 40 to 49, still a challenge. And then 10 to 19, we saw a dip, and so we want to find out why that is, and then we look into that as well.
Can I just ask, so 0 to 9, so your numbers are good in 0 to 9, so how do you get these, once they hit 10 to 19 to continue in the program?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and this is the Youth Bureau does, this is Liz's area, so I wanna find out why she dipped, really from 17 to 18, and actually from 16 too, so there's gotta be something there, and actually we break it down by program categories too,
Well, there's
so.
lots of kids that age group besides the Riverhead. right?
Well, they
Yeah, you
start,
got
they,
your Little
the
League,
school,
you
they get into
got
the
you
school
got all
now.
the other programs and
really,
school
it is
programs.
the
School takes
sports.
over at that
Sure.
point.
When
Wait a
they
second.
start with the school.
Absolutely.
And you gotta dip 90 to 99, you gotta dip.
Where?
We were down to 0.
We gotta pick that up, I
Then
think
you're up again
she
over
might have passed away,
99.
that lady,
One
so.
has
So, actually, we see a lot of them on bus trips, which is pretty cool. So, and then we break it down then by municipality, area. I always like the blanket, for many reasons. We like to see more people from the surrounding, the neighboring towns. One, because it brings in more revenue. Two, it helps some of the, courses that are kinda lagging in participation, maybe they can kinda put us over the top. And three, it helps Riverhead brand, let them come to Riverhead and shop here, things like that. So we always try to build the other municipalities up, but you can see it's Riverhead dominated, which it should be.
And now, do some of the programs participation, does it depend where they're held? Do they seem to be more, are there certain buildings that they're held in that are more successful than others, or does
Well-
that have any category, any?
It would if Henry Pfeiffer was viable, but since we don't use Henry Pfeiffer that much, we're pretty much stuck with George, GYCC, Jamesport, and then the senior centers, mostly our indoor programs. And that's one of the things, initiatives we've been trying to do, and we're gonna increase it, because our pilot programs haven't really worked, the Wading River area, we've offered programs in the churches over there, it just haven't stuck yet. A couple programs are starting to get there, but.
What about the schools, using the schools during the summer for the programs?
We use the Riverhead School District, so we use all their schools.
We do use Riley Avenue.
And is that,
Which is a good location
Yeah.
for Calverton.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the
Yeah.
Monday night basketball,
Yes.
Yep, so basketball and the
My kids
camps,
go
things like
too.
that. So we're growing there, but I wanna see more in Wading River. We've had programs over there, it just has failed, so I think we have to really increase the marketing over there, the awareness.
I think maybe a sign up, a satellite sign up,
Yeah,
right before
that's-
right before the registration, period there. I know Little Flower has that office across the street there, maybe we could partner with them, or reach out to them to partner with them to sign up there, or to have a
Sure.
sign up. I know East End, Disability is over at the Henry Pfeiffer Center, I'm
Yeah.
sure that they would, if we reach out to them, they might be, able to sign people up also.
Yeah,
And
no, it's a
maybe-
good idea, you know,
I would definitely like to see more extended to the Wading River area, it's such a huge
Yeah,
number of
and it's
residents in
increasing.
Wading River.
One of the things that's starting to, you see across the country is mobile recreation. And that is, the registrations on a bus or a trailer, whatever it is, and they go from town to town, and you can register that way too. So we're gonna look into that. Yeah,
Or maybe even
I like that idea.
a parents' night at school.
that's a
You know,
good
when they do
idea,
the parents'
yeah.
nights at school, you could, you know,
You
especially
mean
for
an open house?
open house, especially for your,
You didn't even get in the door at Riley.
I know, but.
You can get us in the door.
No, I mean, it's crowded.
But I mean, if you have a booth there for the recreation programs, maybe
Yeah,
that'll.
yeah, more on site, yeah, we do that with the youth, but we should do that more with all the programs. So then we even break it down further, and this is kinda just for visualization. You see the 3-year trend with the participation, it's up overall, 7% and 11% from 17 to 18. This is just to see kinda, we just visualize for ourselves on the graph. Male, female, same thing, we just break it down even further, and we know we have to target more. We see the trend going up, and we'll continue the trend with the male programs, just to even out. Adult basketball, and that's one of the things that Ashley and Jordan did, has done a tremendous job with bringing in participants. Not only did it for the males, but also the age categories that we were looking to do, so they did a great job with that.
This basketball.
After that, resident versus non-resident, again, I look at this and we look at marketing, where we're marketing, where we're distributing the brochure. And again, we look for more, revenue, strengthen the brand, things like that. So that's when we look at resident, non-resident. And then our,
Maybe that's where our unique programs that they don't offer in other towns comes in,
yeah,
to
that's.
attract people.
So then, this is RecPro. Our RecPro system, breaks it down even further. They do it in pie charts. What I mainly look at, from the office standpoint is the age. It breaks it down there, and you can see the percentages of where we're dominating, we're not dominating. It's pretty much simply what we've done on the spreadsheet, but it breaks it down in pie charts, and it does it year by year. So then, the first one is 16, the second one is 17, and the third one is 18, so you kinda see the trends there. And we saw that a lot in the ages, the changes in the age categories by percentage. Excuse me. Okay, and then we break it down by program category. So after all that, we say, okay, which categories, programs are trending up, trending down? So, is the instructional camp, the grand totals is the first one. So grand totals is what we've been speaking about. You can see the revenue and you can see the participants. Again, it went down in 17 and back up in 18. So we're actually higher than we were. This is kind of our peak, 4,326, which is good. And this is just summer only. This doesn't include the fall or the winter. Yeah, and so you could see exercise is a concern, because you could see it trending down. It goes 334, 284, 268. So that is a concern, and we're gonna take a look at that, because we offer a lot of exercise programs. So we gotta focus on. Yeah, what we're offering, what we're not offering, too many people, not doing exercise. So that's something we're gonna focus on this year. Instructional programming, kind of flattened the same, that's our archery, fencing classes, things like that. Overall in sports, you kinda see it spiked up in 17, so we're gonna find out why it spiked up in 17, we'll look at the programs there. It flattened back out in 18. Water sports, this is just strictly sailing, because we separate by water and aqua. This is the sailing program, so you can see it's trending up. Sailing's always been good, we increase it every year.
So what, the price of that course went down,
For
water sports?
Oh, that one, yeah. We'll adjust it based on what our costs are, so we always try to get it down. But you can see, oh wait, that number doesn't seem right to me, yeah. I gotta check that out, it might be other program too.
And other instructors, some instructors charge more money than other
Yeah,
instructors.
this is I have to look at it, it might be another program
Yeah, but it
involved.
went up 15 people and it went down by a couple hundred bucks.
Right, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is there, like, if you're gonna learn how to paddleboard, that instructor might be charging $100 an hour.
Paddleboard might be in that, and that's why I have it here.
But if you're doing basket weaving, then the instructor might be $25. So the fees that they're paying go up.
But your
Okay.
revenue here is not minus your fee
This is
for
why.
each program, though, correct?
We added the New York Safe Boating class into that category, that's why you
Okay.
see the spike down. That's Jim Divan's class, we only charge $10 for that.
But
So-
my question here, the revenues here is just strict revenues, it's not revenue minus your program expenses, correct?
This is strictly revenue, correct, yeah.
So the
So what-
program expenses are not taken out of here?
No.
Well, okay, so that's what I'm saying when it comes to the instructors, one instructor may
Yeah,
charge more.
yeah, no, it is different, and we either usually break even programs or we look to be in the black, obviously, but this is strictly just counting in revenue.
Ray, what are some of the exercise classes that we have, since that's one of our lower?
Well, we got Babette's Aesthetic Bodies, Sunset Yoga, that's new, Full Moon Meditation, The Biggest Loser has always been a big class for us, but the trend is starting to go down, so we've been offering it for
Right.
years, maybe it's kinda
I know, I'm
looking
thinking
somewhere
maybe
else.
some of our things are not on trend, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we do have Zumba, yoga,
Right.
Pilates.
Yeah, cardio sculpt, morning yoga,
Maybe we
I
need to
think
say
we're offering
what's
too
more
many.
current now, because exercise classes are something that kinda come and go.
yeah, and it was actually a big boom, and then the fact that it's trending down, you gotta look at it, we might have offered too many, I mean, we have at least 10-15 programs here in exercise alone, chair Zumba, now we do plus size fit programs, so we've added a whole bunch and we didn't take away any, so that's.
And
something
I
we
think
can
the
do.
classes become small and they're not quite, you sign up for one class and you kind of fit your schedule around there, and then you don't necessarily then bump over to the next class if that gets canceled.
Yeah, and that's something we were looking into, how to kinda go from one class to the other, so some of them just overlap, so you can't go into the other, but we're gonna fix
I
that
would
as
think
well.
that's seasonal too, wouldn't you get more people in their classes in the winter months?
We do, yeah, we do. But why is it going down the summer? With the beach yoga and the beach classes do really well, we should look at offering more of them. So it's telling, but I'm looking at it, we offer too much, we kinda condense it, and centralize it more, basically with the trend, so. Bus trips, do we do adult sports? That's trending down, we gotta look at that. It's always up and down, but if we see something significant, like exercise, I think is significant because it's really trending down, we look at. Bus trips always do well. It depends on, some of the bus trips, what we offer, things like that, we always change it
Well,
every year.
past Sunday, you had the bus trip into the Jets game,
Yes.
Jets Denver game, for
Jets win,
$100.
Yes.
Yeah.
In section 106, you
Yeah.
can't buy a ticket for $100 in section 106.
I know.
That was
Trying to
a-
get people to go
great
see a Jets
deal.
game,
Yeah,
though.
that was,
Yeah.
it was an excellent trip though, and the
Yeah.
seats were very.
Jordan actually went?
I actually went on
I
the trip.
sat in that section.
Yes,
Sell
yes,
out the
bus
Jets.
was
Yeah.
sold out in a week.
I think if we offered Miami, I don't think that would sell out though.
Not after that New England game.
No, but yeah, the Jets do really well, and they gave us a great deal. In fact, they gave us, which is all revenue, all profit for us now. They gave us, the next game is against Tennessee. That was comp to us. So we're selling it like we brought it down to 80, but that's all strictly profit for us. But we've been a Jet customer for years, so now they said, okay, we'll give you a comp 50 tickets.
Good.
Hey, we'll take them. So some of those trips do really, really well. Then we kinda go into the camp area, instructional camps, they're very small, Minecraft, Imagination Flicks, Action Movie, those are the really specialty camps.
Like those kind of things, is it possible that some of those, I know the library offers those kind of programs also, are we in conflict with them?
I noticed that too, the libraries, well, some stuff that
They're
some stuff that I was looking to do that was new, I realized the library already did it.
Okay.
So that is something we do run into.
We do, yeah, we
Okay.
try to work with them.
Okay.
I know they steal things from us, but that's all right. No, we like the library, we work well with them. But so the summer rec is something that, we're trending up with again, which is good. The price increased, so you can see that's why a big difference in the revenue. We broke it down from, instead of doing one full registration price for the 7 weeks, we break it down week by week now, giving the parents an option, hey, I wanna sign up my kid for 2 weeks versus the 7, or I wanna do weeks 1, 3, and 5, because we're on vacation in the weeks, and it's worked out really well. And you can see the spike in revenue. They pay per week now versus a full 7 weeks, and if you pay all the weeks, and it adds up after a while, you're paying a little bit more, so.
And we also expanded to, get more people, more kids, come to the camp.
That's, in my opinion, that's one of the best programs you run.
Oh, yeah.
It's been
Great.
successful forever.
Oh, yeah,
And I
she's
think
getting close.
the flexibility for parents is
Yes,
huge.
that
because-
went over huge.
Yeah, because, you know, you may have a week's vacation, that, you know, your child's not gonna go to camp,
Or
or,
they do sports
or they
camps.
do sports
Yeah.
camps, it gives them a little variety. I think that was a very good, smart
That was a-
change on your part.
Yeah, it was a brainstorm from the girls that ran the camp, I thought it was an excellent idea, and it worked, intergenerational, that trend, well, the sports camps is the next one. And again, that's going up, so we're seeing, we're adding more sports camps, things like that. We're seeing the trend go up, so that's telling me we gotta add a little bit more to that. Intergeneration, it went down mainly, it's only a couple programs, senior lunch, and we did like a sailing, intergenerational program. That's one of Danielle's categories, and, she's been out because of, pregnancy, so we kinda lost a little bit of that, but she's back now and
But
looking
there
back
are
up.
some senior programs that are free that are being run at the senior
Yeah, those
center.
are
I think
strictly
that-
just senior.
Yes,
But I think
that's-
they're very, from what I'm hearing, they're very successful.
Yeah, we have that in there, the senior
Okay.
programs is this is just intergenerational, so basically the seniors and the youth together. So we really tried to say, all right, with the senior lunch was a great job by them, basically it was, the grandparents and the grandkids. And not everybody gets matched up, so we match them up with a grandparent. You've seen that program,
Yes,
Joanna, you've
yes.
been in there,
cool.
that's a
That
wonderful
sounds really
program, yeah.
And then did you have any intergenerational with Dayhaven this year over there, or no?
That I don't think we did yet, no.
Okay.
But we are brainstorming new ideas and
Yeah,
stuff,
okay.
like tech time, if they wanna bring in equipment, stuff like that, electrical. Kids can teach them how to use it, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a big gap now, you know, you got the World War II vets, the Vietnam vets, and then you have these tech kids, you know, so they work well together, it's fun to watch. So we're definitely looking into increasing that, really getting that out there. The aquatics is swim lessons, and that's been pretty much a slide going down for the last decade. And we don't know, we've tried everything, from changing the price to, changing the locations, like trying a specialty where people could just go in certain times.
Safety, swim.
What time
Yeah.
is it offered?
We offer it all day.
All day from, I think the first one starts at 10, and
Why
then
we
we go.
need an indoor pool.
We talk to Brookhaven, we talk to Southampton, they have an indoor facility,
People
even,
would do it in the winter.
yeah, that, and well, Smithtown does a great job, they have that outdoor built-in pool, and they have a huge following there too. So we do it in the water, we do it at the beaches.
No problem on doing it.
Yeah, and what my opinion was, why the trend is down, is because back in the day, when we offered this, a lot of the parents, the mothers were home, and they could bring their kids for the 2 weeks of swim lessons. Now both parents are working, so you see it just gradually go down, so.
About half of us at this table took swimming lessons at the Riverhead beaches.
Used to be $5.
Want to a pool.
Yeah.
Reeves
Suffolk
Beach.
Community College, their facility,
Remember
their
Wild
gym
Lake?
is almost finished, so they've got a pool there, I don't know if that's.
I would
how
love to, yeah,
available
yeah,
that
we
is.
should ask
we
that
could see it in
special.
some of those.
Yeah.
Well, even in the winter, might be a
As
good
well,
winter
yes.
after-school program where you just kind of pick up and go over there.
That would be, yeah, if it's done, I didn't know if it was ever done, the pool, I heard it's done now?
I heard, no, I
It's
heard
gonna
it
be open for the
it is
spring
for the
semester,
spring
yeah.
It is.
semester, that's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So we'll, you know,
No, we've been waiting for something to open up around here, so we
but I
can
don't know
talk to
how
them.
available it is to the
It's gonna be
general
open to the
public.
public, available to the public
Yeah.
at certain times,
Yeah,
so.
especially a brand new facility like that, yeah. Well, we'll ask them, we'll definitely ask them.
Well, let's jump on that before another town does.
Yeah, you're right, dance is always the same, you know, went down a little bit, I think it's 17, just offered a couple of less programs, but it's always been well. The non-league sports, we're kind of phasing out that category.
Kids or adults, or both?
This is mostly kids. Yeah, there are some adults mixed in here, but, it's mostly kids classes, but this is the full dance category.
Are you thinking of signing up?
I love dance classes.
Gail and Adam run tremendous classes, so jump in there if you wanna do an adult class, they're great. Non-league sports, we're kinda phasing out the category, that's why you don't see much, that's our basketball program, but we're kinda phasing that into a different category. The water sports are down, youth programming is down, so when you see trends going down, then we kinda look at it and break it down further. The summer teen camp is trending up, that's the teenagers, and we're expanding that because the kids are going from our summer rec camp that ends at the 6th grade, and then moving over to the teenage camp, and since we have a lot of we had a lot of younger kids in a, kinda going up, and this big block of kids are not ready for the teen camp, so you'll see a big spike in the teen camp, which is good. That was something we started 7 years ago, I think, 6, 7 years ago.
For the seventh grade. Yes,
Yeah,
kids going into seventh and eighth.
yeah, it's hard to manage that program, but we got, some really good counselors that, do it, so. And arts and crafts is something that's kind of phasing out itself. We try to offer at least one class, and we usually get their standard 10 to 15, so,
I wanna partner with East End Arts on that, because they do have that big back building that they've opened up that has a lot of the arts and craft classes, so
That's
that may be a duplication also.
Oh, the Carriage House still up?
yeah, could be.
That's a nice space.
We used to work with them.
Yeah, when I worked with Liz, we took the kids there a few times. We did some cool stuff, we made like a movie, it was only like 5 minutes, but we made
But
like
it
a
is,
movie.
they have
It
very
was
good
very
stuff.
cool.
Space.
Yeah, what's her name just retired, I believe, right? Yeah, she was good, I like her.
Sean is the new director over there who's,
Oh, sometimes that's good, you know, you get a different look at things.
together.
can I ask, youth programs, what are those exactly?
Let me, break it down. Let me give you some examples of youth, hold on. That was camp. Yeah, we're continuing to streamline our,
Yeah,
categories.
55 programs per that quarter, I think,
that
a
was,
lot of,
yeah, that,
free money.
we put down under youth programs category, that was, youth archery, let me see what
Jump
else.
bunch.
Yeah, jump bunch, things like that. They're not a lot. We have to centralize the youth more from like the youth bureau type programs into a whole big youth category. So that's why you see the numbers kinda low. But those are just strictly recreational programs like fencing, archery for the youth itself.
Oh, so that's not the instructional stuff?
No,
that's
and
different than instructional.
that's another thing. We have camps separated from that too, so.
So what is this instructional then? The one that was under grand total, the second one? I thought that was the archery and stuff.
That's the adults.
Oh, that's, okay, one is
Yeah.
adult, one is youth,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a little confusing, and
Okay.
that's why we're kinda streamlining it as we increase.
So instructional is just
Yeah.
adult,
If you
okay.
want this is a total breakdown by color of the programs and the category.
I think,
I can give that to you.
that's the back one, right?
No, I did this because
That's
of the
something you
questions
don't
I would get, yeah.
Alright.
I didn't wanna give you this whole packet, but you guys can have it. Basically, it's all the programs for the spring, summer, and I break it down by color, and that'll tell you, this is camps, this is instructional, things like that. You
Okay.
guys can have that.
All right, so maybe we'll just give it to, do you have it?
I can send you an
Can you
email, I
it?
can
Yeah,
send
that's
everybody else an
easiest.
email on it,
Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be-
And you can see exactly what the programs are, and that's
Okay.
kinda, we go to that next phase too, and we look at the programs itself. The next is, program and trip evaluations. We really look at this more for the comments, and we've offered, we've changed a lot based on what people have suggested, and it works well. You know, it's hard to get them to, do evaluations, we do online evaluations, we try to hand them out after classes. So you kinda see what people ask for, and we find out where people learn about us, things like that.
Okay.
So that's basic on that. The next one is, these are the canceled programs, on the next page, and this'll break down the programs and tell you why. So how we advertise, and it tells you, so not enough participants is like 95% of the reason, no low enrollment, things like that. So then we look at it and we look at, all right, how do we advertise it? Should we advertise it differently? Who would we reach? And that's kind of, we look at everything and say, sometimes they're just new programs that just hasn't gotten off the ground yet. So we'll try them a second and a third time, and sometimes they get going. But then we look at this every year to see if there's, 3 times in a row, a certain program is not going, and we've tried different ways to advertise it, then we just kind of put it off, and that's it. We're not doing it anymore.
Do you limit the number of new programs you put out each time?
I don't tell them to, we're only doing this many programs. I ask the staff each year, we try to grow about 15-20% of new programming, and it usually falls into that, So we don't really, but what I'm seeing with some of the trends too is that if the ratio's going up, from what we offer and what's canceled, which went from 15 to 17 to 19%, then in my opinion, we're offering a little bit too much, kinda scale it down a little bit. So that's what we're gonna look to do, next time around.
And then my other question is for the winter, as we go into the, I can't remember, do you do vacation weeks?
Yes, we do the vacation summer camp, well, that's not summer camp,
The
but it's the
vacation
same,
camp.
yeah.
That was spawned off right off the summer rec, and it's a great program.
And do you do that as a daily also?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they can pay per day.
Okay.
Yeah, and we find that works, you know, people like to have flexibility, and it works, you know, and it actually gives us more money because, we're charging a little bit more per day versus if you take the whole week, so. And then more people, the people that say, oh, I just couldn't do the week, so I'm not gonna do the program, but if I can go day to day, yeah, I'll go, and we saw an increase in that. This is the next four are, what we did this year is a pilot program. I asked the beach attendants and the beach manager to track the attendance of our beaches and certain times. So it could get, your eyes are gonna go buggy on this, but you can see on the left, we select days, so you can see the 11 a.m., the 1 p.m., the 3 p.m., and the 5 p.m. You can see the spike in the 3. Because we're looking to say, maybe we should alter our hours and, you know, because we open the beaches till 7 per the supervisor this year, the bathrooms, but maybe we should keep the attendance there longer too, but maybe open later. So that's what we're looking at, so if you.
I'm talking about maybe like staggering shifts, you know, having, instead of 2, have 3 staff, split them out throughout the day. And just basically, this is something we just piloted, mostly at Wading River, Reeves Beach. Next year, we plan on doing it every day, and just see going forward, you know, when are the most people there, when it would be smart to have staff, and, you know, fully staffed, even if we're gonna be open till 7 p.m.
In the bathroom, okay, I
Yes.
think that's key.
Yes.
Yeah, and if we have, you know, and the other thing
If
that.
you're there at the beach and no place to go, it's not fun.
Well, we've heard that. But opening the bathrooms worked out this year, but maybe we can keep the attendant there, and maybe even a lifeguard there another hour extra too, but then not start them till 11 or noon, because you see 11 o'clock, it's, hit or miss at some of the beaches, it's kinda low, actually, compared to the rest of the times. And then the other trend with the beaches that we see, it's gonna be hard, but everybody's seeing, is that we open from Memorial Day to the end of June on the weekends. It is cold from Memorial Day to mid-June, and the beaches, we hardly have anybody. But Labor Day to the end of September, it's in the 90s. So the challenge with that, though, is that getting staff. So, but the trend is, it's actually seeing it more and more, that we probably don't need to open, some of the beaches, for Memorial Labor Day. We used to just open, South Jamesport, those on weekends through the end of June, then we opened up all of them, but we're seeing in the numbers, the other beaches just, we don't get anybody. So it's kind of wasting our money on the lifeguards, just sitting there. So it's just something we wanna look at, and then we'll put these numbers together and bring it to you in a couple months and say, this is what our conclusion is.
Okay,
That's kinda it in a nutshell.
very good, thank you.
No, there's more, but I didn't wanna bore you too much.
Nope, thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
What is Bunko?
Big in the scene.
Bunko,
Card
it's,
game.
they have fun, they have a blast, like you think there's a party going on when they play Bunko.
Oh,
It's kinda
Bunko?
like aces
Yeah.
almost, you know,
It's-
you
it's-
play aces.
It's a
and-
little intricate, you gotta play to learn almost.
Yeah,
You have to play to learn,
Yeah.
but it's fun, they have a Bunko. The
You see when they fight.
The seniors, yeah,
Fight.
the seniors, they come in, you think it's a party. Like
Bunko?
Yes, lunch with Bunko.
Had one person.
Well,
Well,
that
well,
day, I think they were confused on the days, so they were showing up on the wrong
I've never
days,
done it.
but it's fun.
Is it just what else is it? The cards and the?
When you roll the
seen it,
dice
you
and you
do it,
have
okay.
you add up your points, and if you have 3 dice and say they all land on, if the number's 1, if it all lands on 1, you get Bunko, and you get 21 points, then you win the game. And that's why you hear, you know, it's like it's quiet, and then, oh, everybody goes up and it goes
Yeah, that was
crazy.
you and Ashley got that together, that's great.
Yeah, they have a blast playing Bunko. It's
You
fun.
wanna increase 40 to 49, do a Texas Hold'em.
I might get in trouble for that.
No, you don't, as long as the house doesn't take any money.
That's true, we'll keep it low profile. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you,
Have a good day.
thank you. Next we will move to taxi cab licensing overview. Welcome.
Morning.
Is it still morning? Almost?
Morning, Eric, yep, just barely. Sorry I wasn't here earlier.
Nope, that's okay, we rearranged everything around.
started with was a breakdown of how we're doing the fees for
I think
licensing.
you're just gonna have
Speak
to
up.
tell us later.
Alright, so I started with a breakdown of how we're doing the fees now. It looks like when the taxi code was originally implemented back in 2011, there wasn't a fee schedule for the operator's permit, the vehicle permit, and the business permit, put in until 2012. Right at the end of 2011 is when the fee schedule was adopted, effective 2012. It hasn't been updated since then, so right now we're charging 500 for an owner's permit, 100 for each vehicle permit, and 100 for each operator. I'm not sure how the taxi cab companies deal with their individual operator permits. I'm not sure if that's something that they put on to their drivers or that they take on themselves. The renewal fees that we have for the vehicles and the operators are $100 annually and $250 annually for the owner or business permit.
So once they have the owner's permit, they pay an initial 500 and then annually they come in and up it for the.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And right now, any untimely renewal is subject to a $25 fee.
Can I just say, the owner's permit, vehicle permit, and operator's permit, do they have to show safety of vehicle, any of the
There is-
inspections?
Yes, yeah, there is requirements in each of the three applications. For the vehicle permit, you have to produce, you know, basically the inspection, registration, they have to have insurance for it and so forth, and that's all stuff that they furnish to the town clerk.
Okay.
Well, that's an appropriate question in light of what happened this past week, that
Yeah.
I believe that limousine had failed inspection, that terrible accident.
Right. And that's, and actually, look specifically at limousines, but that is covered in our code. That could be something that we take a look at and focus on if we wanna make more revisions other than the fee schedule. Now, in sort of reviewing our fee schedule for the purposes of updating it, I looked at other towns, and it appears that the farther east you go, the more you get charged for, you know, basically all of the permits. East Hampton and Southampton both charge $750 for your business or owner's permit. East Hampton does $200 per vehicle and $100 for the operators. Southampton is the same for the owners. It's $150 for the vehicle and $100 for the operators. As you go farther west, a lot of the fees come down pretty significantly, and/or for Brookhaven and Southhold, I couldn't find a specific code dealing with taxis or vehicles, vehicles for hire rather.
And Babylon's the same as us, nice, it's cheaper.
Yes, yeah.
And those are also heavy populated and high use, I'd imagine, like Riverhead is, where we have, I mean, I see taxi cabs all the time in town of Riverhead, where I really don't see them in Southampton or East Hampton.
Oh, no, there's a lot there, there's a lot.
There are Bentleys in East Hampton, they're huge
They're all parked
Priuses in
outside the
Riverhead.
Bordy Barn waiting.
Yeah, but they're probably coming from Riverhead and taking people back here, I know my kids are using them.
So, yeah,
Does this affect Uber?
okay. Uber is a little bit different in the research that I was doing. If we're going to rope in Uber and Lyft and the other ride for hire apps, my suggestion would be that we review the code and put in first of all, some new definitions at the beginning. You know, sort of specifically indicating or differentiating really what an Uber vehicle is versus a taxi cab. Because our taxi cab code requires the appearance of, has certain appearance requirements for the taxi. So you have to have like the dome light on the top, you have to have the decals on the side, that sort of thing. So this would be a little bit different. We need to, you know, have a very specific, explanation of what that is. Now, and this is very, sort of at the beginning of what I'm thinking about. But what it looks like to me is that an Uber driver is really sort of like an independent contractor. They, get referrals from, the sort of over Uber,
The app.
from the app, sending it out, and you just kind of pick and choose what you wanna take on. So in terms of licensing and permit fees and whatnot, I would think there would have to be a separate category, because the Uber driver is gonna sort of have some characteristics of an owner and some characteristics of an operator, it's just sort of overlap. And then you're also gonna wanna make sure that that they're always gonna need a vehicle permit too, so.
I don't know, we don't know if it's practical, to be honest with you.
How so?
Well, cause if let's say I live in Queens, I've just picked up somebody at JFK and they wanna go to Riverhead, and I drop off at Riverhead, I just so happen on my app, said, Ruth, there's something at Riverhead going to Queens, I'll grab them. So it's in and out, it's a one-shot deal, I don't.
Well, we only require these permits if you're going point to point within the town.
Well, Uber does.
So if, if Uber is, if someone is calling for an Uber from, 130 Main Street and they wanna go up to 58, that's point to point in Riverhead. So if you're gonna do that kind of, if you're gonna offer those
It's gonna be
routes,
harder to track.
it'd be much harder to track.
That's what I was gonna
No.
think, how would
Yeah,
we
it's gonna be
track that?
difficult to
That sounds-
track without following the apps themselves, or calling to set somebody up for an Uber to find out how to even get them to come in.
It's true.
A taxi cab's decorated and you know that it's a taxi cab, and Uber could be
Right.
anybody's car, basically.
Well, I think they do have to identify, they have like a
Yeah,
decal
they
that
have
they
the
put in
Uber and the
that they
windshield,
put
or
in
they
the
have the
windshield.
L for the lift.
Yeah.
Does the town have to allow Uber in their town? How is that working? Cause I noticed,
That I'm not entirely clear on.
yeah, it's
Okay.
kinda,
Because
right.
there was some legislation at one point at the state level, but if it passed, towns would, in individual municipalities would have the option of opting out of it. I can't find that actually
Okay.
went through.
I
So
hate to be a
mean,
resident, town
yeah.
resident, I can't order Uber,
So-
I'd be
Yeah, I like
I'd be
no, I like
But
Uber, but I'm
really
just,
need it.
it's a way to at least either to have it or not, you know whether it's there or not.
And when I was looking into this, actually recently, within the past few months, New York City was considering local laws that would, sort of suspend new Uber drivers for a year while they do a study.
Well, that's the taxi commission, that's.
Yeah,
Well, that,
it's the
yeah.
medallion price going down, like you used to
That's
pay
politics.
a ton of money for a
Well,
medallion.
and they were also looking at creating or instituting a standard minimum wage for Uber drivers. Because, when you're a taxi driver, you get paid, a certain amount. With Uber drivers, the more there are, the less each one of them is gonna make, because there's more cars competing for these ride calls that are coming in. So, in terms of sort of comprehensively doing something to address Uber and Lyft and those sorts of services, probably need a little more time to, really dig into it and find out. I probably have to look outside of at least Suffolk County and maybe even New York to find out how other municipalities are dealing with this.
Yeah, but in tourist destination areas, I mean, and speaking to Uber drivers there, that's all they do all day long. But then when Riverhead, and speaking to some Riverhead high school graduates or other people that I know, they have a full-time job and then they get off at night and then they'll do it for an hour
Right.
or a couple hours, they'll turn the app on and then they'll pick somebody up,
Only
so.
on peak hours.
But it's not like, I don't see how they could institute a minimum wage when it's more of when it's convenient for the Uber driver to be able to work the Uber, even if it's only for an hour or two a day.
Well, I think the concern, particularly in New York City, is that that's something that, someone is relying on as the sole source of income. And I think that's why they were, sort of addressing.
I think it has everything to do with the medallions.
Well, it could be, I mean, I
Well, I
know
can't
there are a
say
lot
I
of people
didn't
making
see
money
that
doing it.
in the articles that I read,
Yeah.
but.
So, I know you have some recommendations.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, initially, the proposal for our fees is I think we should bring ourselves in line a little bit more with, East Hampton and Southampton.
Why?
Well, because we have lots of taxi cabs all over town, right? Okay, right now, you're charging $500 for the owner's permit, okay? It's a lot of a lot of paperwork for the town clerk to deal with.
More
and they-
paperwork.
And they have to deal with it regularly.
Well, the $500 is a one shot with the owner, right, and then it's yearly for the vehicle.
Right, which is why I'm saying, which is why I'm proposing that we increase it for the initial owner's permit, but then also increase it, for the renewal fee.
How much time does it take to process a renewal, Diane?
Well, it's actually on them. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of time to process the application, but they have to go get their, fingerprints done, so then they're waiting for the fingerprints. It has to go through DCJS, so we get, Mary sends out a notice to town attorney and to us, so it's a waiting period.
Well,
And
yeah, but that's up to
sometimes-
them to go get fingerprinted.
Yeah.
Right, but then it still has to be reviewed by the town clerk and the town
Well,
attorney.
the town attorney would
Yeah.
review it, and then he lets us know, and then they come in with all the rest of their, like, their doctor's note that says they're free of contagious diseases, and, you know, and their driver's license, all their, you know, items have to be in place, their pictures, cause you put a little picture on their placard. It's not like, you know, it's not like a tremendous amount of time, but it's a process of, okay, do you have this, do you have that, go get this, go get that, you know.
Well,
So-
I think that's what we usually tend to do, is we analyze and we figure out, because you're not supposed to be basing fees on generating money for the town. You're supposed to be basing your fees on the time that it takes to review an application or to process a service. So, we've done a lot of analytical work in the past where we've said, okay, you know what, it takes 2 hours of Diane's time, it takes 2 hours of the town attorney time, and this is what we estimate that it would cost, because $200 may not be enough.
Right, and there's several offices that come into play because, the police department is involved, the town attorney's office, the town clerk's office.
Right.
And then code enforcement.
Yep.
So we deal a lot with Nicole in code enforcement because she's cracking down to say, hey, you know,
That's
your
another revenue
license,
stream.
your permit is expired, you gotta go in and renew your permit.
That's a ticket, right?
So she's catching up on those things, and then she comes into our office because they've got questions or issues, and, you know, and she's asking them to come into compliance, so.
But see,
so
those are the
many
things
departments are
that we
involved.
need to look at. So if registration is expired, then it's double the fee, or, you know, things of that nature, where it
No, I'm
involves
just,
code
I know
enforcement.
I asked is because you brought it up, and I'm just wondering what made you discover that we weren't making enough money on these registrations?
Well, it's not so much that we weren't making enough money, it's just, you know, periodically,
Or not enough money?
any fee schedule should be reviewed. This is, you know, going on 7 years old. When you look at surrounding municipalities
put it in
and what
place.
they're doing,
Right.
you know, it should be somewhat consistent. Could we keep it the same? You know, that's
I'd
up to
just
you
be
guys.
curious as to what it actually costs us to process these, and if somebody is expired, what it costs us to process them, because, you know, we don't know what Southampton and East Hampton are doing. For all we know, the clerk is reviewing all of this and not the office staff, and she makes more money than the office staff,
Oh,
so.
I don't
it's-
think that's based.
Well,
No, I
The
don't think so
750 is
either,
not based,
but that's what I'm
just
saying, I mean, because
Stop.
these, the more we charge, the rates eventually go to the people that are using the service.
Exactly.
So, I don't wanna hurt our seniors that are taking taxis, or hurt our population on Riverhead that use the taxi cab
That's
service to.
But I'm gonna say, since 2012, taking a taxi is more expensive. Rates have gone up.
Okay, but I'm saying that the more we raise rates, the more they're gonna push off onto their users.
Well, the second prong of this, sort of, that you could decide to go with either in addition to or instead of, and that's dealing with the renewal fees. Okay, right now, or late fees are $25.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's, who cares if
Yeah.
you file
Right.
late? So, what I put in this proposal, and the amounts that we're charging are, you know, fungible, whatever. But, right now, the code says they have to renew all these permits within 30 days of expiration, okay? So, what I'm saying is, if they do, they get until 15 days after the expiration to lock in their renewal fee. If they blow that deadline, then they have to do a new application. So right now, if the fee stays at 500 and the renewal's 250, if they.
You are doubling it.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically. So right now, if they blow the deadline to renew, they're getting a $25 late fee. What I'm proposing is that, if they blow the deadline, instead of a $250 renewal, they had to do a new $500 application.
Right, but doesn't a new application require more work from the clerk, cause you have to reprocess it all over again, or is it?
It's the same thing,
Well, you're gonna have to get
it's the same thing,
fingerprints and everything else.
renewal or an original, it's all the same.
So why
Okay.
isn't it always at the same fee? If it's the same amount of work for an owner's permit or a renewal, why isn't it the same fee every year if it's the same amount of work?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have a renewal fee different than than the owner's permit fee? Shouldn't it just always be the owner's permit fee each and every year, you have to renew your owner's permit?
You could do it that way, if
So,
it's,
I mean, I
the
would think
exact
that
same
would-
amount.
Here, the owner
I
comes,
was, you
I
know,
would-
I was
Say the
just
owner,
working
the
off what
operator.
they
That makes
did in the
sense.
past, but yeah.
So the owner, it's a one-time thing, and then the operators are
I
annual?
don't think that,
No, no, it's a vehicle permit.
They're
it's a
all
vehicle, and the operator,
Right, so owner's permit is, right now, is 500 and a renewal
I
at
register my
350 every
business,
year,
it's
correct?
$500.
A renewal at $250.
At 250. Why isn't it, if it's the same amount of work for whether it's a renewal or a permit, why isn't it I mean, I would think it would be the same fee each and every time.
I'm not sure why they
Well,
did
you
that.
probably have all the owner's information in the computer, so you're not entering it for the first time, right?
they fill out an application.
Right, but
Every
when,
time for both.
but when they fill out an application, does it go into a database?
It's the
No?
same.
If I'm Wooten Taxi, I come in and I register my business with you, here's my $500, here's my name, here's my insurance,
I wouldn't ride with you, I've seen you drive.
Alright, whatever, so that's my business, I'm registered, now every year, whatever, I come in and renew it,
Right, it's just all.
here's my 250, I'm still in business, it's still me.
But no, but you still have to fill out all the exact paperwork that you filled
Well,
out
that's
when
just plain
when you registered the
Well,
business.
then we should make up new paperwork,
But that paperwork is required,
then we get a renewal, we get a renewal.
Definitely for the, vehicle and the owner, but I
That's
have to
different now.
But is that-
consider the
That's
business.
different.
is that our requirement, or is that a state requirement to run?
Where's our section of?
The vehicles have to come
Our
in every year,
chapter is
you want site inspections, you wanna make sure that you got a seatbelt, you
So-
got tires, you got.
So the owner's permit is to operate the business,
Yes.
okay, and the application is the same each and every year, when they come in, they fill out the exact same paperwork and the exact same,
And they have to, like, for the operator, they have to get fingerprinting every year, they have to bring in the doctor's note, they have to bring in their picture, there's multiple things they have to have. And then it's processed again, it's the same thing. It's not like a streamlined process, because
Yeah,
it's
so
the
then it
second
should
time.
be the
that's what I'm saying,
same.
so nothing, it's the same, I mean, do other towns
Well,
change the renewal fee?
our operator's permit, the renewal fee is the same as the initial fee.
Okay, so 500 each and every year, okay, that's where I was getting, so then the renewal for the permit for the vehicle, that's at 100?
And the vehicle renewal fee is the same as the initial fee as well.
Okay. And then the operator's permit is the same also?
So in addition, if they're late, then it would be an additional 25.
I just double it.
What do you mean in addition?
Well, I see it says $25 late fee.
Yeah, so right now, if they renew it late, they pay an extra $25.
And I think, you know, for the vehicle permit, I think, you know, to up that, I think, you know, and as to what you said, Catherine, I think to make sure that people come in and register their vehicles, especially when they can be, you know, unsafe. I mean, I think that it's a necessity to have that done, and that they come in on time for that.
Even as far as updating the schedule, I mean, it's been 7 years, it's not like we're changing it every year. Like, an amount of time goes by, I think you need to look at these schedules.
Yeah, look at them, so it's justified, period.
So the question is,
Could've gone down.
the
Gas
owner's,
would be cheaper.
the owner's permit is currently at 500, the recommendation is for 700, do we wanna go with the 700? Or somewhere in between the 500 or 700 or no increase?
For the original owner's permit.
Yes. Wanna go up to 600 on that one?
Well, the current,
Let's figure out how many hours it takes
Well-
to process it.
Well, we have 500, and I know that employees' salaries has gone up at least 2% in 8 years,
Right, but
so.
500 may not have been the right number to begin with. I don't
Well, we
understand
know-
what the pushback is on just figuring it out, how much it costs us.
Do you wanna take that on?
Well, it's just the town clerk, the next time she gets one in, she says, it took me 2 hours, it took
Right.
Carol
I
2
don't
hours,
think
it
the
took.
owner's permit is necessarily all that time consuming. I think the vehicle and or the operator permits are much more time consuming, especially the operator permit, because it has to go through
Yeah.
fingerprinting, through DCJS, through our police
Well,
department.
we don't do that.
Yes, we send, they have to go to
They have to go
an
over to, well,
independent,
usually Minuteman, but they go
Right.
somewhere and they
They
get
have to go
fingerprinted.
to the independent
And then when they get that
vendor.
report, they gotta bring that into us.
no,
Right.
it goes through DCJS, and Mary gets it, and then she sends it, to us, she gives us the report, and it goes to Bob Koskevich in Town Attorney's Office, and then he lets us know that it's okay. So it's multiple different,
Yeah, so I think we need to track that and see how much it costs us, because $100
appears like
doesn't
she's
sound like
telling
it's
us
nearly
Through
enough.
email.
that.
It does.
I
that
feel like
part-
Diane's telling us right
Yes,
now,
that
she
part-
knows
yeah.
how long you've been doing this
It
job.
takes a long time for that. The owner's permit doesn't take all that long. That's pretty straightforward, as long as they have their drug testing policy in place. So that's another thing they have to bring in proof that they were drug tested. So they have, multiple things they have to bring in, and they have to do this every year. But the owner's permit isn't that complicated.
Do we specify where they have to get drug tested from?
They have to have a policy in place where they contract with some
Okay.
company, a
Yeah,
vendor.
And-
good with this.
Yeah, that's a definite.
Do you review their drug policy? When they
do
submit
not.
that?
I do
Does
not.
anybody review it, do you know?
We have copies, so, trying to think if it goes to, Nicole is
Okay.
very
It's all
involved.
liability, because
Yeah.
if anybody's ever stopped and they've found either alcohol or drug and they're operating a taxi cab, the first thing that we're gonna ask for is a copy of their records that were used.
Right.
My staff,
Well, but I mean, what I'm saying is we should have
We have it
someone
now. My
who looks
staff-
at it
yeah.
and make sure makes sure that it's
Right.
not, just
right,
scribbled
to know they
random. It
failed or
says
something,
drug
yeah,
policy.
no. Well, they have a drug policy in
right.
place, but then they each have to go for their drug testing, and we do
Now,
have
who
the
has,
results.
the business itself,
The business itself,
Has to
and
have
who
a
reviews that?
Who reviews what, the actual drug testing?
The policy?
No, their policy.
They have to submit the policy to us,
They have to have it, they have to have something on record, yeah.
and so we have to review the policy.
We should be.
I mean, if we're
Because,
giving
we
somebody
gotta-
an owner
we should-
permit, then that.
We should make sure
I hope
that they're
so.
not
Right.
just submitting, something that
You
they
know what,
copy
I'll
and
have
pasted
to ask
from.
if Nicole's very involved, so I'll have to ask her, but,
well,
I
they're
don't
putting
know
their
if
entire
Bob is,
business and everything online if
Yeah.
they're doing that.
yeah.
But as we can
I
see
know
from,
that-
But I mean, you wanna make sure that it's actually something substantive.
Yeah, I
Not-
mean, I just
not
think we
just-
need to figure out what it actually costs us to operate or to
Okay.
review one of these applications, and then the fees should apply.
so Eric, do you
You're
wanna
saying the
follow,
process,
do you
you're
wanna
saying-
follow
Yeah,
up
I
with that
would-
and just get some ballpark figure to justify the fee increase? Okay. So we'll have Eric just review that, he can work with Diane, you can work over with the chief over there. I do think the being out of compliance, the late fee and untimely renewals, I think that is something that should be kept in there because we don't want unsafe vehicles. And it really sets, to come in.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that?
For,
Yes, I'm
Okay.
okay with
Yes.
that. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and probably get in trouble for saying this, but my biggest concern with taxis in this town is the ability of their drivers to drive properly.
I agree.
And I'm not kidding, there's not a day I drive through this town that I don't see a taxi cab, and I'm thinking, man, I wish I was back in my patrol car back in the days, because I'd have about 6 violations I could write. No
Yep.
turn signals, they
Yep.
pull off on the side of the road, they pull out in front of people, they're in no
Yep.
parking zones and fire zones, it's awful.
But
Their
with,
driving is awful.
but with that, I mean, seeing that, their operator's permit can be revoked then,
And they
for a certain number of
also-
violations?
Yeah.
And how is that communicated back? How is that?
What we have is when they come in for their, the owner's permit, not the owner, the operator's permit, we send them over to Justice Court, and they have to have a letter saying that they don't have any outstanding tickets
See,
or
so
violations.
there's an
And then it
incredible
comes
amount of work involved in
to all
this.
the departments that are involved, it's a lot.
Right.
It is a lot.
That's why I'm okay with the increase. If Diane's
Well,
telling us how much
you know
work
what?
it is.
It may not be enough.
How much, right, how much,
Well, we're looking at what other towns are doing, and that's why I think the 600 number works, cause I don't know that we'd get the same as East Hampton and Southampton.
I just wanna know
right,
what the
or
actual
as
cost
little
is.
as Huntington, but.
Right,
I wouldn't even know how to
somewhere in the middle.
calculate that.
So
Right,
something
we
would
are.
be your
We are
effort
somewhere in
would
the middle.
be,
That's
you know,
on the
for them
upper
to
half.
go over to Justice Court and for Justice Court to look and see if they have any violations or any tickets or background check.
You come into
all the
me and
people.
you ask me about, I'm an operator, all right, we have to take your license and you have to go over to Justice Court. All right, so how much did that just cost me? to
Right.
tell them that?
Exactly,
You put a price tag on that, right,
Well,
Des?
How do you put a price
75
tag
cents
on
for that
I don't
device,
know.
you know?
So town clerk under
I
the
think we can
code
set the fees
has
without
the
that.
ability to revoke the permit.
They wanna justify,
Right.
period.
We work with code enforcement heavily on this.
Well, it's, you know, technically under the code, if Nicole were to
I like
like
change for
violate
reasons, I need
and-
change for reasons,
Just one person.
and
not just for change
you
sake.
get a conviction on it. Once you're aware of that, you can revoke their
We
permit.
work, and then we work with the town attorney's office, we don't just, say, oh, you can't, no, we're pulling this, we're pulling that, so we work heavily with code enforcement town attorneys.
Right, and then there's,
He has his own
appeal,
set of
there's an
fines.
appeal procedure for if a permit is revoked, so,
But this is the issue, it all still comes back, the fact that the town clerk issued an operating permit and has permitted this person to operate, so there is a charge with that to monitor that, and if the person isn't in compliance, to have it pulled. So while it may not be, okay, 15 minutes when they get their operating report, that's an ongoing obligation of somebody who is given an operating permit by the town. So that is the
That's why there's a yearly renewal.
But that, no, it's all
Not
during the
daily
year
renewal.
with code enforcement and the attorney's office. You're not going to just only, if you can violate all the whole year except when you come back and get your permit. So there's an ongoing conversation that goes on if somebody starts
There's
getting violations.
There's a whole separate set of rules for code enforcement as well. And a whole fine sets that go with that as well.
Right, but I think that I think you bring up an excellent point, and I think that if an owner or if an operator's permit is rejected because code enforcement wrote them a ticket or for this or that, then maybe the next year you increase the owner's fee for however many people got their license taken away, that code enforcement had to go out and do an investigation on, so you put in the code that your owner's permit, this is the fee. But if you have one person, it's another $250 to renew your owner's permit the following year, and then you have another person, it's $500 to renew, $250 per person if we're revoking operators' permits because they're getting in accidents or because they're doing drugs while they're driving people around or whatever Nicole sees.
I mean, I will say that, in the, I would say, I'll say for the whole year in Justice Court, and probably had anywhere between 10 to 15 281 violations, so violations under the taxi code. It could be more. Some of the response that I get from these individual operators who come in, is, the owner is sort of pushing any of the fines and stuff onto them, even if it is technically, something that should be the owner's responsibility.
So that's why I'm
Make sure
saying,
your cars are in order.
if they're in,
Make sure your drivers have permits before you send them out on the road. So, that could be sort of the basis for, putting more monetary responsibility on the owners as well.
right, so if one of the operators does come into Justice Court, or two of the operators, or three of the operators, or four of the operators in any given year, then the following year, they're gonna pay $250 per operator that was in Justice Court because they violated the town code. The owner is gonna pay that, and maybe the owner would be more responsible in who they put in their cars as operators.
Okay. That would be, that would, require more than just updating the fee schedule. We would have
Yeah.
to, move around the actual, into the actual code itself.
Right.
Okay.
But let's start with the fee schedule.
Okay.
Same as we did with the 255s, let's start with one thing and then we can continue to address what other issues that may be attached to this. So if you could work with Diane and over at, PD and just kind of figure out what the time is, and as well as the attorney's office, to see what our fee structure
Okay.
is, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, John, we have recreation trail grant funding, is that just
Dawn.
Bob? Dawn.
So, just a brief synopsis, when we started out in trying to complete the recreation trail, when I took office, And we created the alternative transportation committee, and then we did the plans, and then we got the permits, and then we had no money, so we went to Legislator Krupski. Fortunately, he gave us a couple $100,000, then we went to Senator Laval, and we applied for a grant. We got $500,000, and then we needed an additional $150,000. So Senator Laval said, there's DASNY money, so we can give the town $150,000 out of the DASNY money. So, you know, I have the resolution from the county, it's from, you know, the county of Suffolk to the town of Riverhead, and then I have from New York State Office of Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation to the town of Riverhead, but the DASNY grant for the $150,000, right now, the Community Development Agency, which is an authority, would have to get that $150,000, and so the state dormitory authority is saying that they cannot give the money to another authority. It has to go to a municipality. So that has $150,000. We have the trail. The trail is taken out of the subdivision map of the property that we are offering for sale. And now we just have to do the deed that is from the Community Development Agency to the town of Riverhead for the trail. In order to be consistent with the other two grants we got also from the county and from the state office, Parks and Recreation. So,
And they were both given to the Community Development Agency, but they're okay with the transfer of the property from the grants they gave, correct?
well, they have an easement, so the easement is to the county and to the state of New York, and, I mean,
But
John Doe can own the property, and the county and the state still have an easement, so the easement exists no matter who owns the property.
Right, I just wanted to be clear that the grant money we previously received for the trail, that, and I believe Dawn had said, well, she can verify that, but I believe she said that the grants that we previously received, which went to the Community Development Agency for the trail, they are okay,
No,
or they went to the town.
here's the resolution.
The other ones other than the DASNY grants.
Correct.
They went to
Yeah.
the town of Riverhead.
My understanding is Town of Riverhead is named as the grantee, but
Yes.
they were
Okay.
not as specific or as detailed as
Here's the
DASNY is
county.
as to who the owner of record is. Right.
Okay, so that's good, so then
Yeah.
makes
Dawn
it
can
easier.
verify that.
Okay.
And here's the county, and it says to the town of Riverhead, and here's the $500,000 from Parks and Recreation that says town of Riverhead. It doesn't mention anywhere Community Development Agency, so,
That's fine.
okay.
And I believe the reason for that is because they recognize that, you know, the Community Development Agency is an urban renewal agency that's part of the town, or tied to the town, so they have not really, you know, acted upon it, or said that they're, you know, going to require the transfer. So the transfer, as I understand it, will not impact those other two.
Okay.
However, DASNY is throwing a monkey wrench in, saying it's gotta be in the town of Riverhead name and ownership.
Right, and that was our intention anyway, which is why when we had done the map for the subdivision, the recreation trail was taken out. It was a 25-foot area that was taken out. That map has, I've asked the surveyors to give Bob a copy of that map with the meets and bounds description, which was done, and that's how we were able to create the deed on the meets and bounds description that matched the description that's on the map.
Wasn't it 50 foot? 25 feet. No, I think it was 25 feet.
25.
So,
Cause the trail is only 10 feet wide, so it gave us a little bit of room on each side.
so you don't foresee any issues with them further subdividing or the sale of the property if this is transferred over to the town?
My understanding is that, and I'm not going to speak directly to this, but, you know, you can ask Dawn, she has had some further conversations to determine whether there'd be issues with the health department or otherwise as far as creation of an illegal subdivision or further subdivision, and she's been told that we would not run afoul of health department as far as subdivision.
Right,
They
and
would
I have
not-
also.
They would not treat it as a subdivision that was unauthorized, that's what I'm
Right.
told.
And I have
But I haven't had those
emails,
conversations.
I have emails from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services saying that because there wouldn't be any development that's occurring on this property that we're taking out of the overall piece, that they would not consider it, you know, where you would have to come in and do a formal subdivision.
And have they defined the development, just so we have that clear, so in case you ever wanted to put a
Any
water fountain up,
buildings.
or you ended up putting, you know, a bathroom in 5 years from now at an area or something?
Any buildings,
But can we get, I think that we should,
Okay.
let's get a clear definition of development, so like I said, if you ended up wanting to put a bathroom up at some point, or a water fountain, that we won't have an issue,
well,
and I don't think we'll have an issue.
any type of water fountain or bathroom would require Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval.
But
by
so-
just taking property out for a, but I can get that.
But just so that would be considered non-development,
Right,
that's what I
just
mean.
like the
Yeah.
county, with the sewer district, I mean, the county wants to add 2 sheds, and they had to go to the health department to get a permit, because they're adding a building, which is considered development.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, so this way if we get a I know you still need the Suffolk County Health Department certificate, but you just wanna, with the easement area, just so that it's not considered development for a bathroom or water, that's all. Or we can just leave it and not worry about it, and we just won't have the option down the road, that's all. It's just for future.
No, you would just have to go and get a permit from the health department if you wanted to do a bathroom or a water fountain within that property. But they're considering the asphalt trail as non-development.
And that's a conversation that,
Yeah.
you know, Councilwoman and Dawn, I believe, have had. I have not had that conversation.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Well,
I'll get something from the health
yeah, I
department,
think, I
saying
would
that
just
we
like
can
you
take
to,
this out.
to clear off on it as the
Yeah,
attorney's office.
No problem, I mean, I have faith that, you know, Councilwoman and Dawn have done that
Right.
research. And
No, I
spoken
know.
to the right parties to make sure it's not an issue, but I'll reaffirm it.
Okay, just like I said, just with the map there,
Yep.
that's my only concern, but it'll be nice to see the trail get done.
Yeah, because it's been staked out for the other section to go north, so they're hoping to start that work on November 1st, so I'll try and get something from the health department, so that we can hopefully adopt this on Tuesday night, that we authorize the supervisor to sign the deed from the CDA to the town of Riverhead for the rec trail.
People are loving it.
Yeah,
I hear about it all the time from people that use it, they're very
very
happy
happy with it, yeah.
Yep, somebody pulled me aside the other day, and just to tell me how much they're loving it, so.
Yeah.
Good work.
Good.
Very good.
Where is this again? I'm only kidding. I'm one of those.
You're
I'm
non-exerciser.
I'm the depleting exercise number on that recreation thing.
All right, so we are ready to move on to resolutions then?
I'm gonna excuse myself, I have to go. There's a big thing coming up, I didn't realize these were these things.
Okay, all righty.
We'll take this and read the resolutions, not many there,
No,
but there'll probably be more added than,
not too many, no.
Dawn, do we have more resolutions
and
coming?
the 16th is another scoping hearing, right? Oh, see? I
Not
knew it.
many, a few.
No, well, you guys have heard about this a little bit before. This is just to have a special town board meeting to adopt the final scope for the monthly scoping process that we're going
Oh,
through
yes,
right now.
yes, okay.
So Jeff Murphy and Seaman had discussed it before, we wanna codify it at the next board meeting to set 2 weeks from now, that work session to be a special town board meeting to adopt the final scope.
Because this had to be done within that 60-day period afterwards, and this way it gives, because we're only having a scoping session on the 16th, they needed time to be able to write it up and send it off.
Okay.
Right, so this was put together by Bob's office and Jeff Seaman, just to, because I think 60 days is November 5th, you guys are here on November 1st, so. Alright.
Thank you.
All right, so we're okay to start with the resolution?
Yes.
Okay, first one is approved settlement for damages to utility pole. 2 is authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice of public hearing to consider the adoption of a 2019 preliminary annual budget for the town of Riverhead.
I'm sorry.
Authorizes, publication of help wanted advertisement for a building permits examiner.
Yeah, so anybody, we're looking for a Riverhead resident to come in and apply for this building permits examiner position. It would be provisional, you would have to take a test with the county when the test is offered, if you were hired, to pass the test and be in the top 5 of Riverhead in order to retain your employment, but the pay is $42,000 a year plus benefits. So if anybody out there is interested, please call our personnel director.
And I believe that, we may also have a, table at the Job Fair Expo, which is on the 16th, over at the Hyatt. So if anybody would like to come talk to, somebody from our personnel department for this job, or, about any future jobs that we have here, we'll have somebody available.
Come work in the great town of Riverhead.
Yes, come work in the great town of Riverhead. Next we have, authorizes town clerk to publish advertisement for chemicals utilized by the town of Riverhead Sewer District.
I think you missed one.
4 is,
Publish
Or,
and post.
yep,
Authorizes town clerk.
to publish and post notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 273 entitled Solid Waste, section 12, thereof entitled Enforcement Penalties for Offenses of the Town Code. This came out of code revision?
Yes.
Okay, do you wanna explain that a little?
Bob wrote this. Bob, you wanna talk about this one? The 273?
Oh, 273, this came to me by code enforcement.
Sorry.
Sure. Try to give the abridged version.
Okay.
Our current 273, has a structure in it that says that after we go cite a waste generator, bring them to court, get a conviction, their penalty is a warning. So we said, doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'd like to eliminate the first offense being a warning, and instead jump to the second one that's currently set forth under the code, and include a penalty. The first one, I think, is 100 to 250, and the second one's 250 to 500, and then 500 to 1,000 for third offense. So it's to eliminate the warning. It didn't make a lot of sense that
Okay.
you give somebody a warning for going to court. Right.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the change.
Okay, very
Alright.
good, thank you.
Okay, but the public notice is not attached to the resolution, so can you just,
It's actually, if you're on split screen, it's right under there, it's A.
Are you on split
oh,
screen?
notice of
say,
public
Yeah, I have
hearing,
Eric did this,
right?
I'm sure he did it right, cause he's better with this program.
Okay, there it is,
Yeah, so attachments will be on the split,
Yeah.
the split screen.
got it.
Alright, I don't know where the heck we are. We're on 7 now?
Now we're on 5.
When you started to read.
Okay, so 5 is authorizes town clerk to publish advertisement for chemicals utilized by the town of Riverhead Sewer District. Number 6 is CDA authorizes the chairwoman to execute a professional services agreement with SFA LLC for the preparation of a feasibility study. John, do you want Dawn to come, is she available for this?
I'm trying to get her for duties, and I haven't found her in town hall yet, so let me try and get her.
Alright, this is something, that was brought to the, Recreation Committee, I believe, this is for, over at
Veterans
Calverton
Park.
at Veterans Park, where we have a large amount of acreage. This is to work with a company, to come in and evaluate what would be, feasible to do there, and some cost benefits analysis with this. There is a fee attached to this, the fiscal statement of this has not been filled out. So I will let Dawn address that. I think it's about a $25,000 fee for this, so, I don't know that this, it hasn't been discussed where in the budget or where this will be paid for. So I guess the question becomes, is this something that we would like to pursue? And if so, I can look for funding sources for it, but it's a question of whether it's something that the board would be desirous of.
Yeah, and I thought that there were people on the Recreation Committee that had said that we should put this out for an RFP to have other,
This is why I'd like Dawn to come here to
Companies.
address this, cause I think she was talking back and forth with him, I think there was some resolution to that, but I'm not gonna speak for her, so I'll wait for that.
I could get Anne Marie to come in if you like, I can't seem to find Dawn.
Alright, I'm gonna put the,
Yeah, we'll just
it's
come
here,
back
it may
to
get pulled from the packet, okay? That's kind of where we're at. 7 is, order approving extension 91 Pulaski Street of the Riverhead Water District. 8 is ratifies authorization for Wonderland Midway Corp. to provide carnival services at the Riverhead Country Fair Street Festival on Sunday, October 7th, 2018, 8 AM to 6 PM with Riverhead Townscape Incorporated along the riverfront. Authorizes the supervisor to execute a license agreement with Wonderland Midway Corp. and Riverhead Townscape Incorporated.
Denied.
All those little kids that already went on it.
Yeah, 9 is appoints members to the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee.
This is a spot that we're filling on the committee. We had one of our members, great member, passed away unfortunately. So we're replacing his spot on the committee.
And then the next, I think, is that you had some, amends terms of and establishes reappointment dates for members of the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee.
Yeah, this is so everybody didn't expire on the same year, so we had
Right, okay.
alternating years of expiration.
Joe Packett's on top of stuff.
she is. And I was talking to her and she said that the bylaws or
There's
That's
it
coming up
adopts
next.
amendments to the bylaws of the Senior Citizens Advisory Council.
That's
right,
coming up
that
next.
I thought that she had had discussions with you to have the, kind of the same language for all the committees. So, I don't know.
In the change of the bylaws, you mean?
Yeah, as to what is required, cause she nailed everything down,
I will,
I think it's a good idea to have
give her a call and review.
a standard form for all the committees, so that everybody knows, but,
She does an excellent job.
She does.
mhm.
12 is Wellbridge Care Center Capital Project Budget Adjustment, Installation of Water Main, and, how do you say this one? 'Cause
Appurtenances,
Appurtenances,
but it's spelled
Oh, it
improperly.
is spelled wrong, yeah.
Of the Riverhead
right.
Water District.
We will fix that.
13 is Wellbridge Care Water Main Extension, number 135. 14 is award, bid installation of water main and appurtenances, Wellbridge Care Center, Riverhead Water District. 15 is authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice of public hearing of consideration of a local law for the amendment to chapter 289 entitled Vehicles, Traffic, Parking Regulations of the Riverhead Town Code, 280-2, stop and yield intersections, railroad crossings, parking fields, Dam Road and Forge Road. And I know I ask this every time, but with these resolutions, can we just have a printout of the map so the public knows where, just even a Google map
Oh,
with,
which one?
for when we have like intersections, stop signs, stuff like that, just so people have an idea of what we're, cause I think otherwise it's kinda hard to just.
Okay, for any of the, vehicles and traffic type.
Yeah, I think just to have a visual, I think might
This
help people.
actually came out of a meeting that, Geo and engineering and myself had with members of the town of Brookhaven, who got a grant to fix the Brookhaven side of Dam Road and, Forge Road. So some of the owners of Peconic Lakes Estate came in, and I think it's a great idea. I mean, there's a lot of speed coming up to the bridge, and there's canoers that are picking their canoes up out of the
It's
water
narrow
and walking
through the
across the
bridge.
street, so, that's where this came out of.
Okay. So this one is the Dasney Sam Grant, secret resolution for Dayhaven. This is something also I had reached out to Senator Lavelle for. The Dayhaven program is an adult daycare, program that is being run out of one of our, community centers, the TAG building, and part of that was to be able to adapt the building, for some of the seniors to be able to get in. And this is a, second grant that the second grant that we were receiving for them to do the building over there, so. 17 is approved chapter 255, application of New Hope Rising Inc., inaugural softball tournament and home run derby, Saturday, October 20th, 2018.
That's an
Was this
unstable.
worked out with the
This-
food?
Yeah.
So, I remember you all got calls from me about this, I think the day before the last board meeting, so, Laura Calamita, town attorney and recreation all worked this out. Basically, the person who's having the event will pay for the cost of recreation staff that's gonna be there, which wasn't originally in there. And they're actually gonna use our vendor versus the vendor they were planning
Okay.
to bring in. Everything's been worked out, the resolution doesn't actually have to change, that's for Bob's office, it's just gonna be in their agreement,
Okay,
so.
And it wouldn't have been a 255 except for the use of the vendor, so
Right,
that's
they
what
hadn't
kicks
used
it
the
over.
vendor, would've just been in agreement for the recreation, they could have the event, but since they did, so.
So then we have the new one added on, which is a resolution to schedule a special town board meeting for adoption of the final scope for Metro Group Properties, Inc. And that is the, 203 to 213 East Main Street. I noticed we had asked them to put a sign up, to notify the public that we would be having the October 16th scoping session, public scoping session. I do not know whether they put that sign up there or not, though.
didn't see it yesterday.
Yeah, didn't see it either. So, but the next meeting for that project will be, the public scoping session will be on October 16th at 6 P.M.
And I have, been working with Patty White from the Tomcats, so I thought it would be great if the town board acknowledged her for all of her efforts in having the collegiate team here in Riverhead and using the, Vietnam Veterans Memorial, or the Veterans Memorial Park for their home field. So I've asked Patty to come in so that we could acknowledge her, and then also some of the host families that host these kids that come from all over the country to come and play baseball, so
Okay.
that will be right at 6, I hope.
One of
Okay.
their players made it to the big leagues and just pitched last week in the, wild card game, I think for the Colorado Rockies, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
But it was kinda cool, cause he's a kid who stayed here, I
Yeah.
think he stayed with, the the Zaneski family, actually.
Yeah,
Over the summer, and he made it big, so it's
Yeah,
really,
exciting.
it is exciting.
it is exciting,
So, no other resolutions, correct? All right,
just the one that was given to us, right?
Come on, a second one for settlement of a claim. No, they're two different ones.
all right, we'll give that to everybody, but,
No, it was very similar, the numbers were very similar, a lot of the circumstances were similar, but, they were two separate ones. One was a car accident, one was.
I was hoping
One
it was
was car and car, and one was car with telephone pole.
all right, so we'll send that one around to the board, and then it can get in the package.
No problem.
Dawn, we just wanted you to address the, for the SFA is.
Oh, okay, I know, I
Um,
did not get to talk to Ray, I tried like 5 different ways and I missed him, so.
Okay,
So, I have a call into Regina Zara to see if we can find the funding there. Do you wanna start about like the project, or?
you could give a little update, yeah, and then,
Okay.
and then one of the other questions that was brought up was that it was brought before the rec committee, and there was a question whether this should have been put out, whether there was a desire to put it out for an RFP
Right.
prior to moving forward with this, so just kind of
Okay.
an overview and an update.
Okay, so SFA is a strategic planning company for sports recreation facilities. Because our park is 90 acres and the price to update or to even develop the park in the early 2000s was 22 million. And we really don't
Just need to talk
have.
a little louder.
I'm sorry, we really don't have recreation funds because we're not subdividing big
Right.
tracks anymore, we're not getting that funding. So the, long, objective of the town to develop that park has no real opportunity for funding, so we started looking at public-private partnership as an option. In the course of doing that research, we came across a company called SFA, which is Sports Facilities Advisory Company. They're located in Clearwater, Florida, they're nationally renowned. They do basically a lot of different things. They also do development of sports facilities, they've done them all over the country. The head of the company is a guy named Dev Pathik, and he's been on Good Morning America and a bunch of different television shows just describing the increase in the need and economic development benefits of creating these sports facilities. So, we had a large conference call with them, we spoke to the rec committee was in favor of pursuing it as an option because they really don't see any funding available to do any of the projects that they need, so, SFA sent us a proposal, and during the rec committee discussion, one of the rec committee members was concerned about whether we ought to do, an RFP for the proposal for a company to do this. Because it's a professional services, company, we don't need to do competitive bidding or any other process, that we can just select who we want. And based on further discussions with that rec committee member who thought he might have some recommendations, Anne Marie and I, kind of explored the other companies that had been suggested, and the one company that was actually potentially able was not really, it was an apples and oranges. They really did consulting for not-for-profit fundraising.
Okay.
So this is a different thing altogether. So,
And this company, SFA, is actually very selective about the municipalities that they decide to work with, so.
that's correct.
The fact that they are willing to look at it
Yeah.
is, impressive.
Yes, agree, and they did work in Southampton Town, we got good references from Southampton Town, they worked on the SYS project, and, they're looking forward to working with Riverhead if we're so inclined, so Anne Marie and I went over the proposal, we are happy with what they're suggesting. Basically it's a two-part proposal. The first part is a feasibility study to determine, whether and what would be developed there potentially, and what could be, an economic benefit to us. And then, the second part, if the board was inclined to move forward on whatever they suggested, they would create an RFP, and then they will shop it around to.
Which would be a separate fee.
Separate, completely separate.
This agreement would just be to do, suggestions, a feasibility study to
Yes.
see what would be placed there, and that would include some financial, evaluations also in the first portion?
I'm not looking at it, but I can go get it if you want, and they they have they have proprietary economic calculators that they use to determine whether or not a particular site might be, a good fit for, and what type of, facility. So they use a lot of different, you know, mathematical calculations that there are actually proprietary that they own to determine whether or not we might be a good site to have a facility.
But I think one of the things too, I think was, one of the questions is the commitment moving forward, because I think when they do the feasibility study, I think they want some direction in the
Yes.
feasibility study, whether this would be something that the community would be looking to do, and keep as a community center, whether you would wanna go to a regional center, and, you know, in that feasibility study, there's still a big, monetary commitment, no matter what you do moving forward.
Yes.
To bring the project forward. So the question then becomes, you know, do we spend the money now on a study, if we do that, are we prepared to then
Follow through.
with
do
the
the next
commitment?
step.
Because it doesn't make any sense, even, I think it's around 25,000 for the
Correct.
study, you know, would that money be, better spent somewhere else if we do not have the thought that we're gonna move forward with something?
Well, I will say that the company's a renowned company, and the conference call went very well. The entire rec committee was satisfied, with all our questions being answered, and I think this is to a great benefit of the whole town to have something like this. So I'm certainly in favor.
But as I said, it's a 25,000, I guess that's, you know, I know that they did put some numbers out there. I think it would be, maybe we could just share something with the board, you know, if it was a community center, if it was a regional area, you know, none of these things are free. You know, we're talking millions and millions of dollars that the town would have to commit or bond out, to move a project forward. A lot of times, you know, there's choices where the town would build everything, and then somebody would come in and manage it, so that is a very high cost. There's other things where you can partner with somebody, to do it, but there really will not be any option where the town is not laying out a significant amount of money.
I think that's an accurate way to put it. I also think too that, you know, the community's input in it will be very significant, and whether you want to, you know, invest in that site. I think basically it's kind of a black or white kind of a thing, because if you don't partner with someone, or you don't engage with the private sector here, you're not gonna be able to develop this into anything more than really what we have, because we see how hard it is even to buy lights. Is $800,000 to light the park, and because we can't light the park, we don't get as much use. And then if you even were able to bond to develop the 22 million, which was old numbers even, so let's call it, you know, 30 million in today's numbers, then you have to manage it, and that's, you know, 90 acres of park is a giant management commitment. So I think at least to explore the opportunity to maybe do this. And I also thought about it in a different way, because we've always looked at the larger parcel there as the economic engine for Riverhead, but this smaller piece could really also do a lot of good economic development for the town, because if you could develop it in a way that, you know, drew visitors, if it's a regional sports facility, you can draw people to that area and would, you know, benefit the local businesses, the hotels, and, you know, anybody else.
And spoken by a parent that travels around a lot of
Yeah,
places.
and I, you know, we hadn't really ever thought about it in that way. We really were thinking about more recreation for town residents, rather than recreation for town residents, which also contributes significant economic development to the region. So we felt, and I think the rec committee felt, it was a good
Starting point.
yeah, a good expenditure of, it is 25,000, it is not chump change, it's expensive, but the company's reputable, I think we'll get good information. So the question is then whether this board wants to move forward with
Because then you would go, the only reason to do that is to move forward with an RFP, so it's the tolerance of the board. I mean, I'm gonna say it's probably, you know, you're talking about a $30 million bond, and even if you did it with somebody, you're still probably minimum at a $15 million bond. And is that something the board would be considering for a sports center in the next 2 to 3 years? Because if it is not, it does not make sense to move forward with this at this particular juncture.
Well,
Well, there's a lot that's pending, that's in the hopper right now, and there could be a lot of money coming into the town, or we could be remarketing EPCAL and nothing could get done there for 5 or 10 or 15 years, so I think that the sale of the EPCAL property plays a big role into what we are going to be able to afford to do in the immediate future.
But Dawn's also, I think Dawn makes a good point of pulling it out as a separate parcel even. People are telling me that, who have children of the age yours are, that you travel all over and it brings a lot of people into town, we're using our
Yeah.
restaurants and staying in our hotels, and that it can be an economic boost to the town.
Yeah.
But the point is,
But it's money to put out first. I understand
it's that commitment of the bonding for this, we have to bond for the water district, we would possibly be bonding for this. You know, we have a balanced budget at this point, but there is not a lot in reserves. So, you know, is this the time to do it? You know, is it, you know, a plan that we wanna get and we would sit on for a year or so? Or is it better to get the plan in a year from now, or 7 months or 8 months from now, when the numbers that we're getting, because you could do the plan now, but if they opened a place in Smithtown, or they opened a place in Brookhaven somewhere, you know, our indicators would be different. So, you know, how close to, you know, and we can ask the company, you know, if you do this, how long do these numbers last for? You know, is it, you know, 6 months, a year, what is that?
Yeah.
I think that would be,
The longevity of the plan.
And we're not able to get grant money to pay for this $25,000
Well,
fee.
I'm calling, you know, making some phone calls, we're looking around, I spoke to Bill this morning, you know, grant potentially, but the problem is, it's like a chicken and the egg problem, because we get to commit to the study and then apply for the grant, that's usually not how it works, usually, you know, the reverse. So, I'm calling the county, they have, their economic development people have a lot of good, you know, ideas about how we can fund different things, and I think if we can come up with some of the funding for this, then maybe, you know, it's worth at least finding out about. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's all up to you guys, so.
so maybe if you guys could just, you know, think about it, maybe meet with Dawn a little bit and come back with some, you know, I think it's something the community definitely wants, I think it would be wonderful. Like I said, I would like to pursue things that we have the desire to pursue and the ability financially.
Yeah.
Without overburdening our taxpayers to pursue it this time. So, that's just my
Got it.
thought on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Dawn.
All right, thank you.
Did they include in the proposal, actually, so the 25,000 is for the feasibility study, and then how much would it be for them to put together an RFP, or that's predicated on the results of the,
Yeah, it's a
feasibility study.
percentage at that point, so if we were to, you know, do the feasibility study, and let's say they come up with a plan for an RFP that's, you know,
30 million, then
yeah,
what's
and
the
then it would
percentage
be,
of that?
they would get a percentage of that, you know, I don't have the details on that exact thing, cause I'm not looking at it, but it's, you know, in the paperwork, so we can talk about it individually, or I can send it to you, and.
Yeah, but that is something, I mean, also that, what you're talking about is that that's money that we would have to come up right away. So if we were paying the 25,000 and then they said, okay, we estimate that it's gonna cost 20 million, you could do a public-private partnership, or there's grant money, or what have you, and it's a percentage of whatever they estimate the cost of the build-out would be, and we have to pay them a percentage
You
now.
could be at a couple hundred
Like,
thousand.
what is that number?
It's 3%, so that's their number.
3%.
That's their number, so.
So we would have to come up with that money.
Yeah, and I can give you a little more detail on that, I don't have it, again, I think
it might be premature to venture into this until we know what's happening with EPCAL. That's a lot of money to bond out. Mr. Recreation myself,
Yeah.
I would love to have it, but I think from a taxpayer standpoint, I think we need to look at things a little better, financially before we would maybe dive into this. Cause I think that's it's a big venture. Big venture and a lot of money to invest, not sure that we can do it, not sure that we have it, where we're gonna get the funds from. I would feel better if I had a better inkling on what's happening with EPCAL, or, you know, 23 million from the water department today, you know, we're gonna be bonding some money, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
bond some money, so
Yeah.
we might have to pick and choose our
It's a very different approach than we've ever
poisons.
really considered before, because what we always considered was bond, build, you know, and then the taxpayers
Mhm.
have the facility and we pay the bond. This would be a little bit of more of this public-private partnership where it would be run as a business. We theoretically would have, you know, certain times and dates that we would have public, our town residents would have access for free or however they work it out. And that partnership would then theoretically develop, generate revenue. So if we were to bond, there could potentially be revenue to pay that bond, so it wouldn't just be taxpayer paying bond.
But probably not in the first couple years.
Who knows, I
Yeah.
don't know any of those answers, cause I
Yeah.
have no idea even
Yeah,
what they
but-
would recommend
Yeah.
for us to build, so it's just but the objective of doing it as a regional economic development project versus a park or playground
Right.
is a completely
Yeah,
different
this
thing.
isn't a pocket park.
And I don't
Right.
disagree
No.
with you that, finding out what you wind up doing with EPCAL is an important thing, because if you wind up, if you're doing nothing, moving forward, then maybe this is where you wanna start with your economic development there, it's a smaller, like a little bit of an easier nugget to deal with, rather than those overall
No, and they
larger
figure out
acreages.
what the needs are, what people want in the area, what brings in revenue.
Right, and this
They do all that
parcel
for us.
is dedicated as parkland, so you can't sell it, it's perpetually, to be used for parkland, so, so this is just something to consider as you move forward, thinking about how you wanna redevelop these, parcels.
Can the town collectively buy lottery tickets?
We can.
Only if we create a non-for-profit and
It
then we
was
buy the
up for a
lottery
lot of
tickets
money
and
the
then
other
I'll-
day,
Yeah,
I saw.
I didn't check my ticket, did someone
Yeah.
win?
Yeah, okay.
Thank
So
you,
I'll
Dawn.
send the proposal to everybody
right,
to look
thank you.
at, and then we'll, if you have any questions, send them over, or stop by, and we'll answer those,
And would
you
you
guys can-
just check with them when they do these studies, how long do they typically?
Yeah, I'll
to
send
do-
him an email right
Okay.
now, perfect,
Alright, thank you.
thank you, yeah.
Thanks, Dawn.
No problem.
Alright, a first and second to go into executive session for, personnel matters surrounding hiring an employee, litigations matter regarding a claim of William Downing, Kurt Alfaro versus, Lieutenant Lassard, contractual negotiations regarding payment of an easement, and negotiations regarding extending the sewer district.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Alright,
Aye.
here we go.